Chapter 946. Bang, bang, bang. Countless fierce sword images that shot up vertically converged into a powerful grand Tao of the Sword River. However, when they collided with the enormous palm that smashed down towards them, they were like embroidery needles that had collided with an iron wall, and they were completely shattered into pieces. The moment they made a move, the difference between the profound heavens realm and the ancient eternity realm was obvious. In the eyes of the crowd, Chu Hen was definitely going to die today. Powerful waves of air covered the sky and swept out in all directions. The giant palm that blotted out the sky and the sun slammed down on Chu Hen's head in an unshakable manner. Whoosh, however, at this moment, Chu Hen's figure moved. He instantly transformed into a peerless humanoid sword chi that soared into the sky. Surrounded by tens of thousands of sword shadows, he crashed into the center of the giant palm. Bang! A violent tremor swept through the sky. In an instant, a solid beam of light, like the divine light of dawn, penetrated the giant palm and set off thunder in all directions. A hint of surprise and coldness flashed in the eyes of holy leader Lei Aoqiong. Humph, so it's that brat Su Qing's successor. If I had known this day would come, I would have destroyed Mount Kunlun back then. Hearing Lei Aoqiong's words, the crowd was stunned. Who's Su Qing? You don't even know that? How ignorant. This person is the first sect leader of Mount Kunlun. He's also the genius who created the ultimate technique, the single sword flying celestial technique. However, the person who truly brought the single sword flying celestial technique to great heights is Gong Yangyu. Strictly speaking, Gong Yangyu can be considered the soul of Mount Kunlun. Don't just go with the flow. Gong Yangyu has been missing for more than 20 years. We don't even know if he's dead or alive. If he's really capable, why would he just watch as his disciple falls to such a state? That's true. I think Gong Yangyu doesn't even have the guts to collect Chu Hen's corpse. Boom! Chu Hen pierced through the huge hand with a force that could break the heavens. A piercingly cold sword force followed and filled the sky. Holding the sword in one hand, Chu Hen spread wild black lightning. It was like vines of death that came from hell as it wrapped around the sword. Immediately after, Chu Hen dragged the sword and moved. A series of afterimages appeared in the sky as he arrived in front of Lei Aoqiong like a ghost. His sword went straight for the center of Lei Aoqiong's brows. Humph! Lei Aoqiong's eyes were filled with the disdain of a colossus towards an ant. He couldn't remember the last time someone had attacked him. A strand of gorgeous lightning markings erupted from his body, and then silver arcs of light flashed in his eyes. A solid ball of lightning condensed out of thin air and blocked the tip of the blue sky sword. Bang! Upon contact, a shock wave surged, and the lightning ball instantly exploded from the center. The astonishing power was like the detonation of a small star. Lightning splashed everywhere, and the silver and black lightning clashed intensely, like white snakes and black pythons intertwining with each other. After that, Chu Hen condensed his left palm, and strands of black and white cyclones floated in the heavens and the earth. The two cyclones chased and revolved around each other as they converged into Chu Hen's palm, and then they instantly transformed into a yin and yang palm that was both hard and soft. Chu Hen struck with his palm, and the two palm forces that were like the yin and yang of Taiji flew and intertwined with each other. They directly charged through the chaotic rain of lightning and fire before launching their second attack towards Lei Aoqiong. Bang! However, this formidable palm force that was both hard and soft hadn't even been able to touch Lei Aoqiong before it was shattered by the extraordinary imposing aura that emanated from Lei Aoqiong's body. A powerful shockwave swept towards the surroundings. Lei Aoqiong flipped his hand and flicked with the tip of his finger. A strand of sharp energy tore through the air like a shooting arrow and struck towards Chu Hen's throat. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly. He leaned to the side, and the strand of energy brushed past his left shoulder. Hiss! There was a soft sound, and a bloody gash instantly appeared on his shoulder. Without any time to treat his wound or pause, Chu Hen exploded with a shocking speed and immediately disappeared from where he stood. In the next instant, a giant sword that was filled with flames suddenly appeared in the air behind Lei Aoqiong. The giant sword slashed through the air, and it was comparable to a divine blade that could split the heavens. However, Lei Aoqiong didn't even bother to bat an eyelid. He leaned to the side unhurriedly, and just as the giant sword was about to fall, he waved his hand. Rumble! The heavens and the earth flashed, and a pillar of lightning that was as cold as a dragon swept through the air, easily blocking the giant sword that was slashing down. Boom! Rumble! The extremely powerful forces collided, and the sound produced by the collision of all kinds of fierce true ether caused the sky to tremble. As Chu Hen and Lei Aoqiong fought, the hundreds of giant ferocious beasts also erupted into an intense battle with the people of the Thunder Saint Palace. Without a doubt, Lei Aoqiong's appearance was like a cardiac stimulant, stabilizing the minds of the people of the Thunder Saint Palace. They firmly believed that as long as Lei Aoqiong was here, there was no need to fear Chu Hen. Slaughter these evil beasts! Palace Master Leija's eyes were fierce, and his killing intent was awe-inspiring. He and the other experts began to counterattack the ferocious beasts. However, there were also extremely powerful existences among the many ferocious beasts. In addition, the 7 giant pillars of light had caused great damage to the Thunder Saint Palace. As they fought, it was hard to tell which side had the upper hand. For a moment, the entire Thunder Saint Palace could be said to have fallen into chaos. The intense battle continued to unfold. Blood flew everywhere, and people were constantly torn to pieces by the sharp teeth and claws of the ferocious beasts. Giant ferocious beasts were torn to pieces by the crowd, and their flesh was torn to shreds. This trip and this scene were both incomparably magnificent, and it also caused one's heart to tremble. The spectators who were hiding outside the sect quickly retreated in order to avoid being caught in the crossfire. In the sky, the battle between Chu Hen and Lei Aoqiong could be said to be getting more and more intense. Waves of powerful aura that were stronger than the previous one bloomed in the sky. Chu Hen's figure was so fast that it was dazzling like a phantom. One sword after another, one attack after another, and one attack after another. Magnificent martial skills continuously exploded in the sky. However, Lei Aoqiong was like an unshakable mountain. Even though Chu Hen's attacks were stronger than the previous one, he could not even get close to him. On the other hand, Lei Aoqiong's seemingly careless counterattacks always left shocking wounds on Chu Hen's body. The situation would only become more and more difficult to deal with. However, Chu Hen's gaze was still as calm as before. That handsome face of his was so calm that it was somewhat abnormal. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the dark and damp mountain forest, a group of figures was moving quickly towards a certain direction. Suddenly, one of the young women amongst them stopped moving while a strand of astonishment that was difficult to add surged onto her face. "What's wrong, Nongqi?" The person in front turned around and asked. Chu Hen's aura." Everyone stopped in their tracks. "Where is he?" "In the direction of the Thunder Saint Palace." As expected, before everyone could recover from their shock, Nongqi's slightly trembling voice once again rang in everyone's ears. Such a powerful aura, that person has appeared." "That person?" Everyone was stunned at first, and then they all revealed expressions of shock and trembling at the same time. You mean the Ancient One, the Ancient One? What?" Everyone couldn't help but turn pale with fright. Chapter 947. Boom! Bang! Smoke rose like a tide and cyclones soared into the sky. The area of the intense battle continued to expand in the Thunder Saint Palace. The beasts were enraged and the humans counterattacked. The spectacular scenes caused chaos to continue. Experts from the Thunder Saint Palace were constantly torn apart by the sharp claws and teeth of the demonic beasts. At the same time, the demonic beasts let out miserable cries before they died from being surrounded and killed by the crowd. Scarlet blood rained down, and all sorts of dazzling martial skills and secret techniques interweaved and collided, setting off waves after waves of shocking wave. In the center of the ruined divine thunder platform, Lei Jixin clenched her fists and stared at the two imposing figures in the sky above to her. The scene in front of her was like a dream. Clearly, during their first conflict, Chu Hen was still being chased by her to the point that he had to flee in all directions. But now, his opponent had already changed to the strongest person in the Thunder Saint Palace. Unease, palpitations. Even though Lei Aoqiong was right in front of her, Lei Jixin still found it hard to calm down. "You're afraid, right?" A weak voice came from behind her. Lei Jixin was shocked. She turned around and saw that Lei Xiaolan was covered in dust and bruises. She looked like she had just crawled out of a pile of rubble. "Xiaolan, you?" Lei Jixin was startled for a moment, but she quickly reacted. The terrifying impact caused by the 7 giant light pillars must have affected the other party, and because Lei Jixin was standing behind Palace Master Lei Jia, she was safe and sound. Lei Xiaolan's lips curled into a mocking smile. "Looks like you've forgotten about my existence. I'm sorry, I should be lying in the rubble, closing my eyes and taking my last breath. Xiaolan, what are you talking about?" Lei Jixin felt very strange when she heard the other party's tone. The clever and obedient Lei Xiaolan would never say such things to her, but now, her words were full of sarcasm. "Nothing." Lei Xiaolan turned her face away, and her eyes were a little red. Then, she looked at Lei Jixin again and said, "The Thunder Saint Palace is finished." Every word was sharp and ear-piercing. Lei Jixin's expression changed, and she hurriedly shook her head. "No, with Sacred Lord Qiong here, there's no way we'll lose." But no matter how determined Lei Jixin was, Lei Xiaolan's eyes were still as cold as ashes. Her lips moved slightly as she muttered to herself in a mosquito-like voice. "If only you had listened to me back then and summoned him into the Thunder Saint Palace. Why did you have to anger him? That's a demon." Bang! Lightning flashed in all directions and electric arcs flickered. In the void sky, streaks of afterimages appeared around Lei Aoqiong. Chu Hen dragged his sword and moved. Wave after wave of powerful sword auras pressed toward Lei Aoqiong. Even though Chu Hen's sword techniques were extremely sharp, every single one of them was easily neutralized by Lei Aoqiong. Lei Aoqiong's series of powerful attacks did not leave a single mark on his opponent's body. "If this is all you've got, then it's a pity." A chilly aura surged in Lei Aoqiong's eyes. Then, he clasped his hands together, and lightning flashed all over his body. Then, countless bolts of lightning burst out from his body in all directions. The densely packed lightning bolts were like sharp metal wires, and they quickly spread toward the space where Chu Hen was. The range of the lightning bolts rapidly expanded, and tens of thousands of metal nets with electric patterns and silver arcs covered the sky and earth. At the same time, a joint appeared every half a meter, and each joint had sharp barbs on it. A strong aura of danger permeated the violent wind. In an instant, Chu Hen felt as if he was about to fall into the mouth of an incomparably huge man-eating flower. The countless lightning bolts covered in sharp barbs were like deadly teeth. Inescapable net. Lei Aoqiong, who was in the center of the lightning bolts, shouted coldly. His cold gaze was like a sharp sword. Swish, 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 as his voice fell, the earth-shattering lightning iron wire, which was filled with thorns and barbs, immediately tightened and wrapped around Chu Hen. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he continuously dodged. The sharp and rapid sound of wind breaking almost tore the space apart. Chu Hen's speed exploded to the extreme, and he was like an agile dragonfly as he continuously dodged the numerous lightning wires. The dazzling light was too much for the eyes to take in. The lightning wires constantly brushed past Chu Hen's body, and the sharp barbs on them emitted a cold light that sent chills down one's spine. Even though the lightning wires were tightening extremely quickly, Chu Hen did not panic at all. However, Chu Hen did not panic in the slightest. Every time, he would be able to find the most accurate angle to dodge. The swiftness and fierceness of his reaction really made people gasp in amazement. What a shocking speed! Indeed, my eyes are blurry. The hearts of the people watching from afar were in their throats, and they were all worried for Chu Hen. After all, at this moment, the only thing they could think of was how long Chu Hen could last against Lei Aoqiong. The omnipresent net was completely controlled by Lei Aoqiong's mental strength. Chu Hen was dodging at such a high speed, and he was depleting his energy very quickly. If his opponent's rhythm was even slightly disrupted, what awaited him would be countless lightning wires twisting him into a bloody pulp, and the sharp barbs would mercilessly tear his flesh off. Ding! Bang! Chu Hen dodged, and as he retreated, he continuously blocked with the blue sky sword. A series of silver sparks exploded around him, and his series of movements could be said to be smooth and unhurried. Lei Aoqiong could not hide the shock in his heart as he watched Chu Hen dodge the lightning nets that filled the sky. An ordinary person would not have been able to block such an attack at all. Moreover, his opponent seemed to be able to see through his thoughts, and he dodged every time just in time. As the battle progressed, Chu Hen, who should have been at a loss, became calmer and calmer. His handsome face, which had a hint of coldness in it, was so calm that it made people feel uneasy. As a transcendent being of the ancient eternity realm, he could not see through the person in front of him. His murderous intent rose once again. One! Lei Aoqiong suddenly stretched out his arms and pointed them forward. Your speed is not bad, but speed alone is far from enough. Retract! Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The next moment, each lightning wire branched out at the joint, and the branches extended and intertwined with the other branches. In the blink of an eye, the density of the omnipresent net doubled. Not waiting for Chu Hen to have the time to retreat, countless lightning iron wires gathered together and converged towards the same location. Like a huge cocoon, it completely sealed off all of his escape routes. ZZT, ZZT. The manic momentum made people feel extremely uneasy. Inside the cocoon, bolts of lightning that were like light swords darted toward Chu Hen, who was trapped in a narrow area. In the end, he still could not survive this move. The spectators in the distance watched with trembling eyes. They were in awe and fear. Once one fell into Lei Aoqiong's omnipresent net, it was almost impossible for one to escape. Boom! However, in the next moment, an extremely heavy and violent tremor came from inside the lightning cocoon. Purple flames rose from inside the cocoon. Following that, another powerful rhythm unfolded in the air. The power of mountains and rivers gathered at one point. Dub he finger, galaxy piercer! Bang! There was an earth-shattering sound, and lightning filled the sky. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, a huge hole was immediately broken open in the cocoon. First, purple flames surged into the sky, and then an extremely solid starlight pillar shot out like a divine sword. Wung wung. Chapter 948. Buzz, buzz, along with the powerful rhythm of the sky, Dubhe's finger pierced through the sky, surrounded by a domineering purple flame. After breaking a huge hole in the thunder cocoon that trapped Chu Hen, it swept up an incomparably vast and powerful force and smashed towards Lei Aoqiong. What? Everyone present was secretly shocked, and their faces were filled with astonishment. They had thought that Chu Hen, who had fallen into the inescapable trap, would not be able to escape death. They did not expect him to be able to counterattack so quickly. He was indeed a surprising stubborn rock. Humph! Lei Aoqiong's eyes turned cold, and a mocking look appeared on his face. He's so stubborn that it's disgusting. Lei Aoqiong extended both of his palms after he spoke. Numerous brilliant lightning symbols lingered over his palms and arms. His palms, which were covered in layers of lightning glow, faced the piercingly cold light pillar that was rushing over. Its majestic aura was like a mountain, sacred body of thunder. Sacred armor. Sizzle, the crisscrossing lightning arcs swam around Lei Aoqiong's body. Thousands of dazzling light vines overflowed and covered his body. They then transformed into a colorful, luxurious, and sacred armor. It was a sacred armor formed by the pure power of lightning. It was also the power of the sacred body of thunder. Every inch of it flashed with wild lightning. Whoosh! With a soft sound, a pair of blade-like light wings spread out from the back of the sacred armor. Its aura was shocking, like the armor of the god of war. Compared to the sacred armor that Lei Mingho and Lei Zhixin had created in the Xiansha sky region, Lei Aoqiong was much more powerful. Almost at the same time, the majestic light pillar formed by the Dubhe finger attacked. Bang! The two of them collided, and the sky shook. The ripples of light swept out in all directions. Lei Aoqiong's body was as still as a mountain, and a layer of lightning and light curtain rose in front of his palms. At the same time, the starlight pillar that was like a divine blade shattered inch by inch, like a stone pillar that had been broken and exploded, shattering bit by bit. Hiss! What a terrifying defense! What an enviable power! Everyone in the outer area gasped. This was the power of the divine body. It was simply terrifying. Xiao! Then, a piercingly cold wind-breaking sound attacked Lei Aoqiong again. Hua! The shocking sword aura was like a roaring gale. Together with the strong airflow, Lei Aoqiong was trapped in a fixed space. In an instant, streaks of incomparably sharp humanoid sword chi appeared in the world. They were like phantoms, and their auras could destroy the heavens. That's the highest level of the one-sword flying immortal technique? The crowd below was shocked. It seems like Gong Yangyu only reached this level when he was almost 30, right? He's a genius. Flying immortal sword. In front of countless pairs of shocked eyes, the humanoid sword auras that were like death gods slashed at Lei Aoqiong at an extremely fast speed. They left behind many dazzling afterimages in the air. A powerful cyclone stirred. Bang, bang, bang. Continuous heavy explosions sounded in the air. The indestructible humanoid sword chi attacked Lei Aoqiong, but every single sword chi was repelled by his Thunder Soul sacred armor. They could not penetrate his defense. Layer after layer of chi ripples spread out in the air. The powerful attacks from the sword chi forced Lei Aoqiong to move backward, but his face was full of disdain. The spectators in the distance shook their heads. This won't do. Lei Aoqiong's sacred armor is too strong. It'll be difficult for the blue sky sword to break it. Even an idiot can see that sacred leader Qiong is an ancient eternal stage powerhouse. It's impossible for someone at the profound heaven stage to hurt him. That's right. Once sacred leader Qiong gets serious, even 10 Chu-hens will be useless. Bang! In the blink of an eye, the last humanoid sword chi hit Lei Aoqiong solidly with a force that could split the sky. The scattered sword chi spread out wantonly, and a sword mark that was about 10 centimeters wide appeared on the holy armor that looked like the armor of the god of war. Then, the lightning gathered and floated, and the sword mark disappeared completely. Lei Aoqiong's damage was almost zero after a series of powerful attacks. Chu-hen, who had returned to his original position, had a cold look in his eyes. You should be proud that you managed to leave a mark on my sacred armor, Lei Aoqiong said calmly. Lei Aoqiong said indifferently. Then, he raised his eyelids and said in a deep voice, "Then, what about this move? How are you going to deal with it?" Buzz! An intense and majestic aura surged out from Lei Aoqiong's body. Strong waves of energy stacked up in the air and shook the space. Everyone's pupils shrank involuntarily. The sky was filled with flashes of lightning. Then, 20 to 30 figures with piercingly cold auras separated from Lei Aoqiong's body as if they were possessed by ghosts' thunder clones. These figures were all formed from the powerful power of thunder and lightning. They were humanoid in shape, but their limbs, facial features, and torso were all bolts of lightning. They were cold and merciless, and they could kill without a trace. Lei Mingho had once used this lightning doppelganger technique on him. However, the latter's limit was only 10 clones. Lei Aoqiong could create 3 times more clones than Lei Mingho, and their strength and auras were not on the same level. Then, let me see what other trump cards you haven't used. Following Lei Aoqiong's frivolous sneer, 30 hellish guard-like figures charged towards Chu Hen while dragging incomparably manic bolts of lightning behind them. Death was like the wind, cold and murderous. Everyone inside and outside the Thunder Saint Palace could not help but reveal solemn expressions. Even the ice-cold demonic beasts were affected by the aura, and revealed expressions of fear. The cruel scene of Chu Hen being surrounded and killed seemed to have appeared in everyone's mind. The corners of Chu Hen's mouth curled up slightly when he felt the dangerous aura of the dozens of powerful clones. Then you better open your eyes and watch carefully. As soon as he finished speaking, a strange aura suddenly erupted from Chu Hen's body. Buzz! A vast amount of true yuan surged out, and the world was immediately filled with the power of Tai Chi and Yin Yang. Chu Hen held the tyrannical power of White Yang in one hand, and the bone-chilling power of Black Yin in the other. The 2 cyclones were held in his palms. Whoosh! Then, Chu Hen pushed his hands outwards, and a strange Tai Chi Yin-Yang diagram appeared in the air. The sky turned pale, and the huge Tai Chi Yin-Yang diagram instantly expanded to a diameter of 100 feet. The 30 lightning clones that were charging at him all landed within the boundary of the diagram. This is? Under the surprised gazes of the crowd, Chu Hen's figure moved, and he instantly dashed out. A powerful aura swept out, and he was like an evil god that controlled life and death. Sky dance of the moon, 1,000 illusions. Whoosh! In the next moment, the space around each lightning avatar distorted and became uneasy. Moreover, an illusory afterimage appeared behind each of them. It was difficult to tell the real from the fake. Chapter 949. Boom! An incomparably majestic aura shook heaven and earth, shaking the entire sky above the Thunder Saint Palace. All kinds of turbulence filled the sect. A huge Tai Chi formation that spanned hundreds of meters appeared between heaven and earth. The 30 lightning clones on top of the formation were all pierced through the back and chest by a saint's sword. Then, a series of several dozen incomparably heavy and violent explosions rang out. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts blossomed like a shower of sparks before completely collapsing and exploding. The sword shadows that appeared out of thin air overlapped and returned to Chu Hen's body one after another. The shocking change happened in the blink of an eye. That's moon sky enclosing dance, 1,000 phantoms in a forest several kilometers away from the Thunder Saint Palace. Yi Yao, Long Xuan, Mu Feng, Haozi, and the others who were rushing over at top speed just happened to witness this scene. It's Big Brother Chu Hen, it can't be wrong. Yi Yao was both excited and shocked. This moon sky enclosing dance, 1,000 phantoms was a technique she had comprehended from the great Tao Divine Stone fragment. Before the ancient desolate heaven territory opened, during the few days that they spent together after Chu Hen rescued Yi Yao from Shanghai City, she had taught Chu Hen the Yin-Yang sky palm, the greater teleportation technique, and the moon sky enclosing dance, 1,000 phantoms among them. The most difficult technique to learn was the last one. However, things were different now. Chu Hen, who had already reached the 7th level of the Heaven Profound realm, did not have much difficulty executing this technique. My God, this is the Thunder Saint Palace? Dan Zhen, Su Lang, and the rest of the Mount Kunliu disciples all widened their eyes. They were completely shocked, speechless by the scene in front of them. The holy land of martial arts that they knew of had been destroyed beyond recognition. Mountain ridges were razed to the ground, and luxurious buildings were reduced to ruins. Everywhere he looked, there was fresh soil that had been turned over. The intense battle filled the heavens and the earth. The rage of humans and the roars of demon beasts resounded through the heavens and the earth, and they interweaved together, causing one to tremble without end. Was this done by Chu Hen? Everyone looked at each other, and all of them noticed the extreme shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. Just how strong is this guy? Mu Feng frowned and said in a deep voice. However, no one had the time to be stunned. Their eyes flashed with a strong sense of determination. Go! Sky dance of the moon, thousand illusions. An astonishing murderous aura wantonly surged like a raging wave. Chu Hen held his sword diagonally and his clothes fluttered in the wind. His eyes flashed with a strange purple light as he stared coldly at Lei Aoqiong, who was like a god of war. Are you satisfied? These simple words were filled with mockery. Anger finally appeared on Lei Aoqiong's face. In an instant, more than 30 lightning clones were destroyed by Chu Hen with a single move. This was Lei Aoqiong's humiliation. Roar! The flames of battle continued to spread. As the experts of the Thunder Saint Palace stabilized, the attacks of the demonic beasts were suppressed. Bang! Palace Master Lei Zhe sent the huge body of the heavy rock bear flying with a single palm strike. The bear landed heavily on the ground and collapsed a mountain. Slaughter these evil beasts! Lei Zhe's eyes were cold, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He looked up at the infuriating young figure and shouted, "Don't even think of leaving my Thunder Saint Palace alive today." Just as the demonic beasts were being killed and forced to retreat, the ground suddenly cracked open. Boom! With an earth-shattering sound, a force that was like a volcanic eruption erupted into the sky. The surroundings trembled, and layers of gravel were crushed into powder. Along with a monstrous majesty, colorful clouds surged, and a huge golden ape suddenly appeared under the sky. What was going on? Everyone was shocked. In the next moment, a huge fist descended from the sky like a meteorite, heavily smashing into the crowd of people from the Thunder Saint Palace. Boom! The sudden impact caused the mountains and rivers to crack. The experts of the Thunder Saint Palace were caught off guard and didn't even have time to react before a group of them were directly killed. That was? Everyone's eyes trembled slightly. They saw that it was a giant golden ape that was hundreds of meters tall. Its entire body was covered in thick golden fur, and its eyes were spewing flames. Its mouth revealed sharp teeth, and it revealed a ferocious yet domineering aura. "Big Brother Chu Hen, we're here." Yi Yao's voice followed closely. Her delicate body was surrounded by the power of Tai Chi and Yin Yang. Her palms moved like willows, and together with the astonishing rhythm of space, a solid Tai Chi array spread out like a black and white wave toward the Thunder Saint Palace disciples in front of her. Sky dance of the moon, thousand illusions. Swish, 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 space distorted, and violent energy fluctuations set off around the dozens of Thunder Saint Palace disciples. In the next moment, an illusory phantom appeared behind each of them. It was like a dream, real and fake. It was exactly the same as the scene Chu Hen had just presented. In an instant, all the afterimages attacked at the same time, setting off a surging wave of palm energy. Boom! Bang! Dozens of powerful shockwaves exploded high up in the sky. Layers of rippling light patterns were especially dazzling. Miserable screams rang out one after another as the powerful palm force penetrated through the spines of those Thunder Saint Palace disciples. Blood rained down, and dozens of people fell to the ground like birds with broken wings, becoming corpses one after another. "I say, Chu Hen, are you looking down on us, brothers? How can you not have me, the marshal, in your fight?" "Sword demon descends!" Mu Feng shouted loudly, and the veins on his forehead and arms bulged. Buzz, a surging aura surged out, and endless flowing light patterns gathered on the Buddha demon sword. He gripped the hilt tightly with both arms, and his eyes were scarlet red. As if he was swinging a heavy object, he swung the sword forward. Whoosh! Surging waves of air surged, and a blue sword light as wide as a river swept forward. In an instant, heaven and earth were overshadowed, and the condensed sword light swept across the Thunder Saint Palace disciples. Boom! As if they had been hit by a mountain, blood spurted out of their mouths, and they were sent flying. Many of them were directly chopped into pieces and died on the spot. "Chu Hen, we're here." "I'm here too." "Who cares if they're from the Thunder Saint Palace or not? Let's kill a few of them first." Haozi, Long Xuanshuang, Shanzhen, Su Lang, Lung Lingyan, Qin, Qi Shu, and Hua all rushed to the scene. Each and every one of them used everything they had learned in their lives, and integrated it into the battle. Everyone was very clear that the moment they stepped into the Thunder Saint Palace, it was equivalent to having one foot in the King of Hell. Being enemies with the Thunder Saint Palace meant that they were prepared to die. A bunch of mobs. Leisha's eyes were cold and fierce, and he glared at the crowd. Do you all want your entire clan to be annihilated? Shut up. Monkey, beat him up. Mu Feng shouted. Roar! As soon as he finished speaking, the eyes of the peerless golden demon ape spewed out scorching flames. His face was ferocious, and he smashed his fist down. His huge fist was like a small mountain, and his whole body was covered in vigorous golden flames. Leisha was furious, and he raised his palm, which flickered with violent lightning, to directly meet the impact of the opponent's fist. You're just a mere beast, and you dare to be so rash in front of this lord. Scram, bang! The extremely uncoordinated fist and palm collided, causing the earth to explode and the mountains to tremble. Rings of powerful light patterns immediately spilled out from the center of the two. Although there was a huge difference in size between the two, Leisha stood unwaveringly in the same place like a boulder, while the golden demon ape was directly sent flying by the terrifying power of the opponent's body, smashing through more than half of the mountain ridge before coming to a stop. Leisha's cultivation had reached the 9th stage of the profound sky realm, and he was second only to the sect's holy lord, Lei Aoqiong. Although he was injured by the power of the 7 stars summoned by Chu Hen, an ordinary heavenly beast would be killed with a single palm strike. However, what was even more surprising was that the golden demon ape, who was thought to be at least heavily injured, actually crawled out of the pile of rocks again. Although there was blood at the corner of his mouth, the aura he emitted was even more powerful. Chapter 950. Roar! The giant golden ape crawled out of the rubble, with blood dripping from the corner of its mouth. Its eyes spewed golden flames, and its front body crawled on the ground, like a fierce tiger and wolf about to attack. Leisha frowned, and his eyes overflowed with murderous light. Evil beast, ow! As soon as the voice fell, the giant ape suddenly kicked the ground, and a deep crack spread along its feet. The monstrous flame was like an erupting volcano. It rushed towards Leisha with a ferocious face. At the same time, it folded its arms, crossed its fingers, and blasted towards Leisha's head. This beast, Leisha was secretly shocked. With his cultivation at the 9th stage of the sky profound realm, he actually had a trace of fear in front of this strange giant ape. While feeling suspicious, Leisha once again opened his palm, and the violent thunder and lightning intertwined like a net, instantly turning into 100 meters wide thunder and lightning palm print die. Rumble! The huge thunder and lightning palm print rose to the sky and blasted towards the giant golden ape. Bang! A heavy explosion swept through the sky, and the giant golden ape smashed into the thunder and lightning palm print like a mountain. The mountains and rivers were about to split, and the earth trembled. A terrifying river of light swept out in all directions. Layer upon layer of vast and mighty shock waves poured down, causing the ground below to crack and collapse. Tens of thousands of crushed rocks were lifted into the air. The giant golden ape was blasted out again. However, this time, Leisha, the palace master of the Thunder Saint Palace, was also hit by a huge wave, and was pushed back more than 10 meters by the strong shock force. Screech! Then, a loud and passionate eagle cry resounded through the sky. The black cloud condor, with a wingspan of more than 1,000 meters, suddenly seized this opportunity. It flew diagonally across the sky, turning into a shocking curved blade arc, and slashed down towards Leisha, who had already used up all his strength. The majestic air wave was overwhelming, shocking the sky. The huge shadow blade that spanned 1,000 meters exuded the power to destroy heaven and earth. Leisha's pupils could not help but tremble, and in a hurry, He quickly used the power of thunder and lightning to create an illusory thunder and lightning armor. Almost at the same time, the huge shadow blade fiercely fell on his body. Boom! The ground crumbled inch by inch as a huge ravine extended from the rubble below. The spectacular scene changed the color of heaven and earth. From afar, Leja looked like he had been hit by a crescent moon falling from the sky. The terrifying power was concentrated on the opponent's body. The thunder-sacred armor that Leja had condensed in a hurry was directly shattered. The gorgeous robe in front of his chest was split open along with his flesh. Blood danced in the air, and the wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. Bang! Leja quickly retreated in a sorry state. He covered his wound with one hand, and his face was pale and angry. Damn bastard! The battle here was extremely intense, and the spectators in the outer area were all dumbfounded. Shock was written all over everyone's faces. Oh my God, what the hell is that? Black Cloud Eagle, Level 6 Heavenly Beast. I'm not talking about the Black Cloud Condor. I'm talking about the Golden Ape. It actually blocked 2 heavy blows from Leja and didn't die. If it was the Black Cloud Condor, it would have died on the spot. It's really strange. Even if Leja was injured before, it's impossible for him to be defeated by 2 heavenly beasts. This Chu-Hen has too many secrets. The giant golden ape and the black cloud condor's temporary coordination was truly stunning. Leja, who had already suffered a lot of injuries, once again suffered a second injury. Even so, the Thunder Saint Palace still stabilized the situation. After all, the overall strength of Long Xuanxuang, Mu Feng, Yi Yao, Lung Lingyan and the others could not make up for the gap between the Thunder Saint Palace and the Thunder Saint Palace. Although Chu-Hen had used the power of 7 stars to kill a very spectacular number. But those who had the ability to survive were still not to be underestimated. This was the difference between a giant force and an ordinary sect. A skinny camel will always be bigger than a horse. Rumble! But right at this moment, another gust of violent wind that covered the heavens and the earth swept through the sky. Wen Liang is here. Xiaowuhe is here. Accompanied by a vast and mighty aura, thousands of sharp figures charged towards the Thunder Saint Palace one after another, dragging their sharp blades behind them. It's the Fairy Palace Master and the others. Dan Jin's eyes lit up as she exclaimed in surprise. Su Lang was also very surprised. The 3 Palace Masters are here. No, it's all of us from Mount Kunliu who are here. Lung Lingyan's beautiful eyes trembled as she said softly. Mount Kunliu had arrived. Led by the Fairy Palace Master, the Demon Slayer Palace Master, and the Void Palace Master, the senior elders, and thousands of disciples were all here. This was also the backbone of Mount Kunliu. Chu-Hen, we're here, Chi Hanyu shouted coldly. She stared at the thin and slender young figure in the sky with a deep look in her eyes. Chaos, a chaotic battle. Chu-Hen wielded the blue sky sword, and his sword aura was like that of the Lord of Mount Kunliu. Looking at the chaotic scene before him, Lei Aoqiong laughed mockingly. A mere Mount Kunliu with a bunch of ants dares to provoke me. I can't help but be surprised by your stupidity. The supreme aura announced the wrath of the king. Everyone on Mount Kunliu was shocked by Lei Aoqiong's powerful aura, but they did not stop moving. They all joined the battle and killed their way into it. Everything happened too suddenly. But it seemed to be reasonable. Are the people of Mount Kunliu crazy? The spectators at the periphery were shocked. In their opinion, Mount Kunliu was playing with fire. Ha 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 ha, Thunder Saint Palace, I, Wen Liang, have always dreamed of trampling you under my feet. Demon Slayer Palace Master Wen Liang laughed loudly as he held a heavy halberd in his hand. He was extremely domineering as he continuously defeated the opponents of Thunder Saint Palace. He, don't brag, old one. I think you never dreamed that this day would come. Void Temple Master Xiaowuhe sneered, as he turned into a shadow and silently appeared behind an expert of Thunder Saint Palace. Then, he pierced his opponent's spine with his palm. Humph, you guys must be tired of living. I'll let you lowly ants come, but you won't be able to return. The two experts of the sky profound realm immediately attacked the two of them with swift and fierce move. The two of them did not want to be outdone, and displayed everything they had learned in their lives to meet the attack. The battle was getting more and more intense. The chaos continued to spread. In the blink of an eye, Thunder Saint Palace had already become a battlefield of weapons. The roars of demonic beasts shook the heavens, and angry shouts echoed. The two groups of people were like a raging tsunami. Sharp blades flew everywhere, and streaks of light collided with each other. Shockwave after shockwave exploded in the air. Without a doubt, Mount Kunlia's actions had directly angered Lei Aoqiong's limitless killing intent. Very good. Lei Aoqiong coldly looked at Chu Hen in front of him. The corner of his mouth rose into a cold smile that was as sharp as a curved blade. It's been a long time since I've had the urge to start a massacre. Thanks to you, not only will they all die today, everyone related to you will completely disappear. Chi. The indestructible Thunder Saint armor flickered with dazzling lightning. It was so beautiful that it looked like a lightning dragon circling around its body. Feeling the strong killing intent that originated from his opponent, an incomparably cold expression floated on Chu Hen's face. I'm looking forward to how it feels to kill an ancient eternal realm expert. That demonic arc was like the bloody scythe in the hands of the evil god. Hua! A strange energy wave swept across the entire area. A purple light flashed in the depths of Chu Hen's eyes, and the 5 black dots emitted a heart-palpitating rhythm. At the same time, on a mountain a dozen miles away from the Thunder Saint Palace, at the peak of the mountain stood a balcony. The balcony was vast and imposing. Green and white stone pillars stood in the sky, and every 2 pillars were connected by iron chains. Buzz! Suddenly 2 dazzling golden beams of light fell from the sky and directly fell on the east and west sides of the platform. A wave of piercingly cold air spread out and stacked on top of each other. The light beams dissipated, and a few figures with extraordinary bearing appeared on the left and right sides respectively. Especially the 2 people at the front. They were extraordinary and refined, causing one to feel as if everything else in the world was eclipsed by their aura. The person on the left was slightly plump, with white hair and a white beard. He had the air of an otherworldly expert. On the other hand, the person on the right was dressed luxuriously, with a jade crown on his head. He exuded the nobility of an emperor. The two looked at each other. There was the indifference of acquaintances meeting, and the cold arrogance of opponents. You're quite punctual, sect leader Qiao Yong. The luxuriously dressed middle-aged man looked up and said indifferently. The elder smiled. Aren't you the same? Hall Master Xing Yi. Hua. Qiao Yong. Xing Yi. If anyone else was here, they would definitely be dumbfounded by the scene in front of them. These two were none other than the sect leader of the Thousand World sect and the Hall Master of the Johua Palace. They were both ancient eternal realm existences. They were existences that stood at the top of the pyramid of the province, and the other one was only a few dozen miles away from them. Today, 3 ancient eternal realm powerhouses had appeared in the same place. This was definitely something that could shake the entire province. There was no excessive exchange of words. Both sides knew what the other was thinking. Since you're all here, let's go, Xing Yi said indifferently. At the same time, he looked meaningfully in the direction of the Thunder Saint Palace. Over there, the sky was dark and the earth was dark. The fusion of true essence and thunder and lightning made it seem as if the sky was about to collapse, and the winds and clouds surged. I really didn't think that the Thunder Saint Palace would have such a day. Qiao Yong smiled and shook his head with some mockery and helplessness. Just as everyone was about to leave the high balcony, another solid pillar of light pierced through the sky and landed on a mountain in front of them. Invisible waves of air spread out. The grass and trees trembled, and the earth trembled slightly. Immediately after, A middle-aged man with an extraordinary appearance appeared on the mountain range. Although his clothes were ordinary, he could not hide the powerful aura that was revealed in his eyes. "I've waited for a long time, you two." The middle-aged man cupped his fists in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Facing these two top powerhouses of the province, he didn't show much emotion. Xingyi frowned and shouted coldly, "Who are you?" The middle-aged man looked up and spat out a few words. Chapter 951. I am Gong Yangyu. The middle-aged man was neither servile nor overbearing. His gaze was calm as he cupped his fists together. He did not reveal too much emotion in front of these two top experts in the province. "Gong Yangyu?" "Xing-yi, the palace master of the Zhihua Palace," said disdainfully. "Why is a nobody blocking our way? I recognize you." On the other side, Qiao Yong, the sect master of the Thousand World sect, raised his head and extended his right hand. "Gong Yangyu, the leader of Mount Kunli. 20 years ago, you were already one of the top 10 experts of the province. You were also the youngest one, am I right?" Gong Yangyu smiled warmly. "You flatter me, Sect Master Qiao. I am ashamed, one of the top 10 experts?" A hint of frivolity appeared between Xing Yi's brows. The top 10 experts of the province region were only limited to those in the sky profound realm, and did not include the three peak existences in the eternal realm. After all, Qiao Yong, Xing Yi, and Lei Aoqiong's positions were unshakable. As for the ranking from 20 years ago, it was even more unreliable. In the past 20 years, the victorious East Province had produced many experts, and there were many who had reached the late profound sky realm. Even though Gong Yangyu was full of metal, Mount Kunli was still a powerhouse in front of the Myriad World sect and the Zhihua Palace. It was no wonder that everyone was unhappy with Gong Yangyu blocking their way. "Sect Master Qiao, Hall Master Xing, I have been waiting here for a long time. I hope the two of you can stop here." Gong Yangyu's voice was not loud, and his tone was very humble. However, his words still shocked the people in front of him. "Bastard, who do you think you are? Do you know who you are talking to?" A Zhihua Palace disciple stepped forward and shouted. Gong Yangyu was not angry, and his eyes were still friendly. Qiao Yong replied, "Tell me your reason." "It's very simple. I sincerely ask the two of you to be magnanimous and not interfere with the grudge between Chu Hen and the Thunder Saint Palace." His words had exposed the mystery behind it. Qiao Yong and Xing Yi looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. "You knew we would come?" Qiao Yong asked. Gong Yangyu humbly nodded his head. The astonishment on Qiao Yong's face deepened. At the same time, he couldn't help but look at Gong Yangyu with an additional tinge of appreciation. The person in front of him did not seem to be an ordinary person. Whether it was Qiao Yong, Xing Yi, or Gong Yangyu, all of them were intelligent people. They didn't need to converse too much to understand each other's intentions. Gong Yangyu's motive was already very clear. He knew that the Myriad World sect and the Palace of Zhihua would never turn a blind eye to the Thunder Saint Palace's plight. For more than 1,000 years, these three behemoths were supreme existences that no one in the province could shake. Before this, the overall strength of the three major forces was not that different. That was the main point. Since Chu Hen had the ability to shake the position of the Thunder Saint Palace, it was enough to prove that he had the ability to threaten the Thousand World sect and the Palace of Zhihua. Although Lei Aoqiong's cultivation was so strong that it would not cause them to worry too much. However, if there was a 1 in 10 million chance that the final victor was Chu Hen, then the entire Victory East state would welcome an unprecedented reshuffle. This was definitely not what the Thousand World sect and the Palace of Zhihua wanted to see. If Chu Hen really destroyed the Thunder Saint Palace like an earth-shattering attack, it would be a huge blow to the position of the other two giants. From now on, the three major forces were no longer invincible in the eyes of the world. This was the reason why Qiao Yong and Xing Yi, the two Eternal Realm cultivators, had arrived. Of course, they might not directly interfere in this matter. After all, they knew Lei Aoqiong's strength. If Lei Aoqiong killed Chu Hen, then it would naturally be a smooth sailing and prove that the Thunder Saint Palace was still powerful. However, once the two of them predicted that the Thunder Saint Palace was about to fall into a disadvantageous position, the two of them would immediately appear and stop the battle from continuing. At that time, the world would only think that the Thousand World Sect and the Palace of Jihua had arrived at the crucial moment and quelled Lei Aoqiong's anger, thus pardoning the people of Mount Kunliu from death. As for Chu Hen, his ending would definitely not be good. Only one of them could survive. From Qiao Yong and Xing Yi's point of view, the answer was obvious. You are truly a smart person. I believe that in a few years, Mount Kunliu will definitely become an overlord. I really look forward to seeing that day. Qiao Yong looked at Gong Yangyu in front of him meaningfully. This sentence was both a compliment and a warning. Gong Yangyu smiled slightly. He naturally understood what Qiao Yong was referring to. If he turned and left now, the other party would not pursue the crime of blocking their path. However, if he did not understand the situation and continued to pester them, then Mount Kunliu would have no future to speak of. I'm very sorry. When the two of you arrived, all the disciples of Mount Kunliu had already participated in the battle against the Thunder Saint Palace. What? Qiao Yong was slightly shocked. He did not dare to believe it. Xing Yi, on the other hand, could not help but sneer in disdain. Like a moth flying into a flame, you're digging your own grave. Looks like Sect Master Qiao Yong needs to take back his words. You're not smart. You think you can defeat the Thunder Saint Palace with just your subordinates? Every single word was extremely impactful. However, Gong Yangyu was extremely calm. He looked at Xing Yi and said, however, the two of you still came in the end. They still came in the end. Since they came, it meant that no matter how powerful Lei Aoqiong was, the two of them were still slightly worried. How dare you? Xing Yi was instantly enraged. His eyes were filled with coldness. Other than Qiao Yong and Lei Aoqiong, there was no one else in the Eastern Victory State who dared to speak to him like this. Gong Yangyu was not afraid at all when he felt the coldness from the other party. He said indifferently, I'll say it again. The enmity between Chu Hen and the Thunder Saint Palace should be resolved by themselves. I beg the two of you to stop here. As soon as he finished speaking, the coldness from Xing Yi's body intensified. Immediately, he did not hide the threat in his words. You want me to interfere in your life and death. On the other side, Qiao Yong did not say anything. Just as Gong Yangyu had said, since they had come, they could not stop here. In truth, Qiao Yong admired Gong Yangyu's courage and wisdom. However, he was somewhat obstinate and self-opinionated. In the entire Eastern Victory State, no one dared to stand in front of the two of them. However, what happened next shocked Qiao Yong even more. Even under the threat of Xing Yi's destruction, Gong Yangyu's gaze was still resolute and his expression was calm. Please. Gong Yangyu raised his hand and made a gesture of please. Just as he finished speaking, Xing Yi's eyes suddenly erupted with two balls of light, accompanied by an incomparably powerful aura. With a loud bang, the entire mountain range beneath Gong Yangyu's body instantly crumbled and caved in. Boom! Tens of thousands of rocks flew into the air. The ground under Gong Yangyu's feet collapsed layer by layer and shattered inch by inch. A powerful cyclone formed around him, forming a huge whirlpool of wind. Rocks of all sizes flew in all directions towards Gong Yangyu, who was in the center. The densely packed rocks immediately merged to form a huge rock ball that was 100 feet wide. Gong Yangyu was directly submerged within it. Humph, foolish! Xing Yi laughed coldly. Qiao Yong shook his head helplessly, as if he felt pity for Gong Yangyu. However, in the next instant, an extremely sharp zing sound filled the sky. A solid golden sword light actually descended from the sky. It was like a divine rainbow as it landed solidly on the rock ball. Chi, the sound of rocks being cut entered everyone's ears. Under everyone's shocked gazes, The huge rock ball that was 100 feet wide was actually split into two halves. Boom! The huge rock wall was like a small mountain that smashed down heavily. Gong Yangyu stood in the air, his sword aura piercingly cold. Rays of illusory and formless sword chi circled around his body, displaying its shocking sharpness. You? The Thousand World sect leader Qiao Yang's eyes widened. His usually calm face was now filled with shock. Chapter 952. You have also reached the ancient eternal stage. Boom! Along with the two halves of the giant rock wall, Thousand World sect leader Qiao Yang's face was filled with shock and astonishment. He, who had always been as calm as a mountain and was used to seeing great winds and waves, was also moved at this moment. The same was true for Xing Yi, the palace master of Zhihua Palace. After so many years, a fourth ancient eternal stage cultivator had appeared in the Victory East province. This meant that from now on, there would be more than just 3 sects ruling the province. Mount Kunliu. Gong Yangyu. Everything was too unexpected. Gong Yangyu stood in the air with an awe-inspiring sword aura. His eyes were still calm and indifferent like the water in an ancient well. Numerous illusory sword auras lingered around his body, like the world-shocking sharpness that could not be extinguished even after 1,000 years. The air in the surroundings seemed to speed up. Spatial vibrations came from the direction of the Thunder Saint Palace. On the other side, Gong Yangyu stood alone in front of the people from the Thousand World sect and Palace of Zhihua. His aura was calm, neither servile nor overbearing. His deep eyes were as steady as a boulder. Humph! Why did I say that you had the guts to block the way? You came prepared. I was wrong, Xing Yi said coldly. At the same time, the aura he exuded became even colder. It was obvious that he was not just angry at Gong Yangyu for blocking the way. The threat of the Victory East province was not just Chu Hen. The strength of Mount Kunliu had long surpassed the imagination of the world. I have no intention of becoming enemies with the two of you, whether it is Mount Kunliu or the Thunder Saint Palace. They do not have much of a grudge with the Thousand World sect and Palace of Zhihua. If I am biased towards the Thunder Saint Palace just to hurt the two of you, it is really unfair to Chu Hen, Gong Yangyu said. Sect leader Qiao Yong of the Thousand World sect shook his head and said, If this is the only reason, then you are underestimating sect leader Xing Yi and I too much. Do you know how many lives the existence of the Thunder Saint Palace concerns? If even the 3 great forces cannot control the hearts of the people, the Victory East province will usher in chaos. Have you ever thought about these things? Yes. Are you still going to act willfully? Qiao Yong asked. Gong Yangyu lifted his head slightly, his tone filled with majesty. I'm just a boorish man. I'm neither a monarch nor a marquis. I'm just a commoner. I can't interfere with the affairs of the world. I only know that Chu Hen is a member of my Mount Kunlu. No one can interfere with his life or death. Hua. His words clearly displayed Gong Yangyu's determination and attitude. Today, he had to protect Chu Hen. Ha 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 ha, what bold words. It's just a mere Mount Kunliu, how bold. Xing Yi, the palace master of the Zhihua Palace, laughed coldly. Then, his voice paused and his tone suddenly became sharp. I want to see, without your help, how can that arrogant brat at the profound sky realm defeat Lei Aoqiong? Moreover, I want to see, with just you, Gong Yangyu, what ability do you have to stop me? With that, Xing Yi instantly disappeared from where he was. Like a flickering shadow, he immediately appeared in front of Gong Yangyu, his vast aura surging towards the other party. Gong Yangyu's eyes narrowed. He waved one hand with 2 fingers and released an incomparably condensed and powerful sword chi. Chaotic true origin sword chi surged, layer after layer. Between heaven and earth, wild winds raged and cyclones soared into the sky. The moment the 2 ancient eternal realm experts clashed, it immediately caused the sky to darken. One punch, one kick, one palm, one sword. The terrifying shockwaves produced swept in all directions, flattening the forest and reversing the waterfall. Looking at Gong Yangyu, who was calm under Xing Yi's attacks, Qiao Yong, who was on the high platform, revealed a somewhat complicated expression. It had to be said that Gong Yangyu was really a martial arts genius. Nearly 20 years ago, he was already one of the top 10 experts of the profound sky realm in the province. Now, he had become the fourth existence of the ancient eternal realm. A small Mount Kunliu was really not simple. But then again, the amount of time Gong Yangyu took to enter the ancient eternal realm was far less than Xing Yi. If Gong Yangyu couldn't find the time to go and help, Chu Hen would most likely die. Qiao Yong let out a deep breath, his gaze fixed on the chaotic sky in the direction of the Thunder Saint Palace. Although it's a pity, there's no other way. Boom! Bang! Flames raged in the sky, mountains crumbled and the earth cracked. The increasingly chaotic battle spread to every corner of the Thunder Saint Palace. Thousands of people from Mount Kunliu joined in, cooperating with the powerful demonic beasts to cause chaos to the people of the Thunder Saint Palace. The sky darkened and the giant beasts roared. Huge ferocious beasts clashed with the pitch-black crowd, stirring up energy ripples that soared into the sky. Without a doubt, the main reason for this battle between the two sects, the Thunder Saint Palace and Mount Kunliu, was the two figures fighting fiercely in the sky. Mount Kunliu had bet everything. The Thunder Saint Palace had also given everything. Who would win or lose, it all depended on those two. Bang! Ding! In the sky, Chu Hen was fighting against the master of the Thunder Saint Palace, fighting firmament. One after another, dazzling afterimages flickered in the world. Chu Hen's imposing manner shook the heavens. Powerful purple flames and black radiance intertwined and revolved around his body. The blue sky sword revolved around him, like a sacred sword protecting his body, swallowing and spitting out eerie sword aura. Lei Aoqiong was even more dazzling, like a god of war. His domineering sacred thunder armor was overflowing with color, and it was indestructible. The lightning pillars that shot out were even more dangerous than the lightning dragons and lightning pythons. The lightning pythons and sword chi intertwined, causing a bright rain of fire to erupt in the sky. Although Lei Aoqiong's aura was not just a little bit stronger than Chu Hen's, every time they clashed, Chu Hen was not at a disadvantage. Like a boulder, the more he fought, the braver he became. Each and every one of Lei Aoqiong's moves was deadly and ruthless. The explosive power of the sacred body of thunder was displayed to the fullest. More and more wounds appeared on Chu Hen's body, but he was still not afraid. His attacks and defenses were not messed up. This was not what everyone had expected. Chu Hen's strength was beyond everyone's imagination. What a tough guy. He's already withstood more than 100 attacks from Sacred Lord Qiong, right? The spectators in the distance murmured in surprise. Look over there. Suddenly, a voice full of doubt and surprise sounded. Then, everyone's gazes swept toward the sky on the other side. There, heaven and earth were also moving and clouds were surging. What's going on? Are there strong cultivators fighting over there as well? It looks like a very intense battle. Who wants to go take a look? Bang! Just as everyone was feeling confused, an earth-shattering explosion drew everyone's attention back to the sky above the Thunder Saint Palace. ZZT, ZZT, countless huge lightning pillars intertwined. When Lei Aoqiong sent Chu Hen flying with a palm strike, he stretched out his arms and froze. Chapter 953. Sizzle, sizzle, countless bolts of lightning intertwined in the sky, and a dazzling screen of lightning appeared between Lei Aoqiong and Chu Hen. Lei Aoqiong's eyes flashed with killing intent. Then, he stretched out his arms and froze in midair. Rumble! The screen of lightning was like a door that opened to a mysterious era. Then, a huge barbarian lightning ox directly rushed out, their auras soared into the sky, such as the terrifying ferocious creatures from the primordial world. The world lost color, and blinding lightning flashed in the sky. Everyone could feel a strong, majestic pressure. Lightning beast strikes the sky. Along with Lei Aoqiong's cold and fierce aura, the lightning beast, which was as huge as a small mountain, stepped on the air with its 4 hooves. It swept up a ferocious aura that overflowed the heavens as it charged towards Chu Hen. Behind it, there were condensed and manic lightning pillars. The vast and mighty aura was comparable to a magnificent army launching a crazy slaughter and assault. Chu Hen, who was in front of it, seemed extremely small. He was like a small boat in front of a raging tsunami. Clearly, Lei Aoqiong had no intention of dragging things out any longer. This attack was filled with endless killing intent. And, just at this moment, the corners of Chu Hen's eyes that were focused suddenly lifted. Buzz, a strong rhythm shook the space, and a dense purple splendor rose to the sky. Chu Hen's eyes emitted a demonic purple light, and the 5 black dots in the depths of his pupils rapidly rotated. In an instant, a loud bang shook the heavens, and the enormous barbarian lightning beast solidly collided with a purple curtain of light. Lightning flashed, and purple flames filled the sky. A surging wave of energy swept out in all directions. Everyone's expressions changed, and their eyes trembled as they watched the scene unfold above them. That is? He blocked it? How is that possible? That's an all-out attack from an ancient eternity cultivator. A powerful cyclone filled the sky, and everyone's eyes were fixed on the purple screen of light in front of the raging lightning bull. It was a strange shield. It was wide at the top and pointed at the bottom like a large token. On the surface of the shield was the image of a pair of demonic eyes, like the eyes of an ancient demon god. Shield of punishment. The power of a 5-star demon pupil. One attacking and one defending. The incomparably intense explosive power was especially shocking. Lei Aoqiong's eyes grew colder. How can a mere carving skill stop me? Break for me, clang! Bolt after bolt of tribulation lightning descended from the sky like silver dragons, and they transformed into a powerful source of energy that flowed into the barbaric lightning ox. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts gathered into one. The barbarian lightning ox's body couldn't help but solidify a little, and the lightning arcs that covered its body wantonly flickered, making it look exceptionally furious. Moo! He raised his sharp horns high and slammed them against the shield once again. Bang! The astonishing explosive force caused the surrounding space to tremble uneasily. In the next instant, light and shadow flew, and purple light splashed in all directions. The light screen, which possessed great defensive power, was directly split apart from the middle. Cracks appeared on the surface of the light screen, as if it was frozen and cracked. Not good. Everyone from Mount Kunliu was greatly alarmed, and their faces were filled with shock. It's really too much. The flying immortal hall master, Qi Hanyu, tightly clenched her sword, her eyes revealing a grave expression. Everyone else was also shocked. Aside from reverence for Lei Aoqiong's strength, they were mostly filled with disbelief for Chu Hen. Just what level of defensive power was that? It was actually able to withstand 2 of Lei Aoqiong's attacks. Moo! Before everyone could recover from their shock, the barbaric lightning ox let out a deafening roar and erupted with an aura that was even more furious than before. It's over. It definitely can't withstand a 3rd attack. Everyone's eyes narrowed, and their expressions tensed up. But it was also at this moment that a surging purple tide surged out of nowhere. At the same time, the purple flames were mixed with a black vortex of light. Bang! An incomparably heavy muffled sound rang out, and a purple dragon shadow covered in a black cyclone crashed into the abdomen of the barbarian lightning beast with a momentum that soared into the sky. All the lightning power struck the front of the ox's horns. The other parts of the ox were all weak point. In just an instant, the enormous ox exploded from the center, bursting into millions of dazzling light shadows, and dazzling lightning covered the sky. What? Everyone turned pale with fright. The Thunder Saint Palace, Mount Kunliu, and the countless spectators outside the battle were all astonished. There was no third time. The entire sky above the Thunder Saint Palace shook uneasily, and the wind blew away the clouds. Roar! The purple dragon soared into the sky, its power suppressing the Milky Way. The black flames attached to it added a few hints of evilness, giving off the feeling that it was a dark, evil dragon from hell. It didn't give anyone any time to recover. The dragon looked down at the ground, then swooped down, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws at Lei Aoqiong. The violent and powerful air waves surged toward Lei Aoqiong, who felt like he was in the middle of a gust of wind. Lei Aoqiong's eyes were gloomy, and the war god's divine armor on his body emitted arcs of light. Then, he raised his palms to the sky, and a ball of lightning surged out to meet the diving dragon. Boom! An earth-shattering power exploded in the sky. A purple storm stirred up the sky and enveloped Lei Aoqiong. Like a rain of fire, thousands of fireballs sprayed out. Everyone below was shaken by the powerful aftershock, causing their blood and qi to churn. Is that all you've got? Lei Aoqiong, who was in the rain of fire, was still unscathed, and his aura was fierce like an invincible god of war. Buzz, however, before he finished speaking, Lei Aoqiong suddenly frowned, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. The others below were stunned at first, and then they were also astonished. What's that? Buzz, a strange energy wave spread out, and a layer of strange black shadow attached to Lei Aoqiong's back. The layer of black shadow seemed to be stuck to him, and from afar, the outline of the black shadow looked very similar to Chu Hen. Lei Zhixin's eyes trembled in a corner below. She couldn't be more familiar with this strange shadow. She had seen it twice in the Xiankshetra sky region. That black shadow seemed to be growing stronger with Chu Hen's power. It was mysterious, and it made people's hearts beat faster. Lei Aoqiong found that his movement was greatly restricted. The black shadow behind him was like a ghost that bound his hands and feet, and even the true origin energy in his body was being devoured. How was this possible? Lei Aoqiong was shocked, angry, and confused. The bloodline limit of the sacred thunder body that he was so proud of was being suppressed. Whoosh! He did not have time to think of a countermeasure. An extremely cold and dense aura surged toward him like a cold current. It seems like you're not very powerful. Sacred Lord Lei, the indifferent voice was mixed with a hint of mockery. Everyone was shocked. Lei Aoqiong's expression also changed. A blurry afterimage traversed through the air. What appeared in front of him was a handsome face that carried a little evil and strangeness. Buzz! An extremely violent energy wave erupted from Chu Hen's left palm. Inexhaustible starlight gathered in Chu Hen's palm like a tornado. In an instant, the pattern of the Big Dipper floated in Chu Hen's palm. All 7 spots of light were lit up. It was as if Chu Hen was in control of the stars, as if he was holding the sun in his hand. He gave rise to an unprecedented aura as he directly rushed in front of Lei Aoqiong. He stretched out his palm and firmly slammed it on the other party's chest. Chapter 954. 7-star soul crit. The 7 specks of light were all lit up. Inexhaustible starlight gathered at the center of Chu Hen's palm like a whirlpool. A beautiful and resplendent Big Dipper pattern floated in his palm, controlling the heavens and drawing upon the power of heaven and earth. Along with an incomparably terrifying and transcendent aura, Chu Hen's eyes exploded with a demonic purple light. He struck out with his palm and solidly struck Lei Aoqiong's chest. Bang! A loud explosion shook the heavens. Qi waves rose into the sky. A vast and violent power erupted like a torrent in an instant. The sky above the Thunder Saint Palace began to tremble violently. Silver starlight that could topple mountains and overturn seas engulfed everything in all directions. Chu Hen's power was like a mountain, like a mad dragon coming out of the sea. An unparalleled power poured down. Lei Aoqiong's body felt like it was hit by a meteorite. The sacred thunder armor in front of his chest cracked like a blossoming crystal flower. What? Lei Aoqiong's eyes widened. He was furious. Everyone who witnessed this was equally shocked, and their faces were filled with shock. Sacred thunder armor! That saint armor that was like the war god's helmet, that could break through anything, was forcibly pierced through by Chu Hen's attack at this very moment. Bang! After that, an explosion resounded, and the entire sacred lightning armor that covered Lei Aoqiong's body shattered inch by inch, and it directly exploded into countless crystalline fragments. A vast wave of light rippled out between the two of them. Lei Aoqiong's pupils trembled. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Oh my God! How was this possible? A strong, piercingly cold air whistled through the sky. Everyone present felt their hearts tremble. Their eyes were wide open, and their faces were filled with disbelief. Eternal realm. An existence that stood at the peak of the victorious East State had actually been injured by a junior in the profound sky realm. Even though they had seen it with their own eyes, they did not dare to believe that the scene in front of them was real. Unease began to fill the hearts of everyone from the Thunder Saint Palace. Palace Master Lei Zhi felt true fear for the first time. Especially Lei Zhixin, she couldn't help but clench her trembling hands. Her complicated eyes were filled with fear. Impossible! Absolutely impossible! Lei Zhixin's heart could collapse at any time. Meanwhile, Lei Xiaolan, who was standing behind her, pursed her lips tightly as she stared at the young figure who had pressed his left palm against Lei Aoqiong's chest. Outside his body, the demonic purple light and the strange black light were like divine flames fused together. His handsome and resolute side profile looked as if it had been carved by a knife, emitting infinite sharpness. The Thunder Saint Palace is done for. Lei Xiaolan muttered with despair in her heart. At the same time, the corner of Chu Hen's mouth curled up into a demonic smile. What a pity, you, Thunder Saint Palace. It's over. Buzz! The air trembled and the cold wind was like a sword. Lei Aoqiong's pupils constricted slightly, and they reflected the purple pupils that were right in front of him. You? Fear, unease, surprise, and intense anger. Chu Hen smiled like the Grim Reaper, and his voice carried a hint of mockery. Looks like you've found out. You can start saying your last words now. In that instant, Lei Aoqiong felt as if a huge wave had been set off in his heart. An unprecedented look of shock covered his entire face. The pair of purple eyes in front of him seemed to be looking at a messenger from hell. He, who had almost forgotten to be afraid, was already feeling a trace of fear. However, in the next second, Lei Aoqiong's heart was completely replaced by a monstrous rage. Along with a cold smile, thick disdain emerged once again. Ha 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 ha! Little bastard, you underestimate me! A violent wind blew, and a majestic roar resounded through the sky. Lei Aoqiong's eyes flickered with violent lightning. Then, he raised his arms, and a towering aura erupted. Today, I'll show you the true power of the Thunder Saint physique. True power. His voice was like thunder, and everyone's heart skipped a beat. Boom! Suddenly, pillars of lightning shot out of Lei Aoqiong's body like lightning dragons. Bang! The terrifying power pushed Chu Hen back. Then, a trickle of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Brother Chu Hen, Yi Yao, Long Xuanshuang, Mu Feng, and the others were all shocked. Before anyone could react, thousands of lightning bolts appeared in the sky. Thunderclouds covered the sky, causing the earth to darken and the sky to lose color. Pillars of lightning fell from the sky and entered Lei Aoqiong's body. An unprecedentedly powerful aura erupted from Lei Aoqiong's body. At that moment, everyone could feel the destructive aura from Lei Aoqiong's body. Thunder God's fury. Clang! Endless lightning bolts turned the sky and earth upside down, causing the sky to change. Under everyone's shocked gazes, a huge shadow floated out of Lei Aoqiong's body. This illusory figure was 1,000 meters tall, with 4 limbs exposed. It wore a mighty and extraordinary war god's armor, and its huge head was also covered by a helmet. Its huge eyes shot out 2 rays of resplendent golden light, and in its right hand it tightly held a heavy hammer that flickered with lightning light. The heavy hammer was nearly 300 meters long, sharp at the top and wide at the bottom. It was extremely intimidating. What a terrifying aura! Is this the ultimate power of the Thunder Saint physique? There was no one present who wasn't shocked, and there was no one who didn't tremble. The hearts of Flying Immortal Palace Master, Demon Slaughter Palace Master, and the other people of Mount Kuan-Lu, as well as Chu Hen's group of friends, were all stretched taut. The chaos of the entire Mount Kuan-Lu stopped at the same time. Roar! Roar! Even the demonic beasts couldn't help but let out deep roars. Lei Aoqiong was like a god in the middle of the huge lightning shadow. The blood at the corner of his mouth and his ragged clothes made him look even crazier. He stared at the tiny Chu Hen in front of him, and a savage look appeared on his face. What a pity! You're not strong enough right now. So just die. Die! Rumble, thunder roared through the sky, and the deafening sound was like an army of thousands of men and horses. The giant, godlike shadow swung its huge hammer, leaving behind pillars of lightning that pierced through the sky. It stirred up an irresistible aura of destruction as it smashed down on Chu Hen's head. The spectacular scene was like a huge mountain pressing down on him. Their auras weren't on the same level at all. Lei Aoqiong, who was in the ancient eternal realm, didn't hold anything back. At this very moment, Chu Hen was as small as a small boat in the middle of an ocean storm. What awaited Chu Hen was nothing but ashes. No. Long Xuanxuang's eyes widened and she cried out in panic. However, her cry was drowned out by the thunderous roar. Boom! It was like a star exploding. Waves of air shot into the sky, and the power that could topple mountains and overturn seas burst forth like a tsunami. Then, everyone's pupils shrank and their eyelids twitched. They saw that the heavy hammer, which could destroy heaven and earth, had come to a halt above Chu Hen's head, and blocking the heavy hammer was an incomparably sharp blood-colored scythe. The gigantic sickle seemed as if it had been soaked in blood, and it emitted a powerful sharpness that caused people to tremble. What caused people to be even more shocked was that behind Chu Hen's back, a gigantic and demonic shadow also appeared, the power of the heavens. Chapter 955. Buzz. Buzz. At this moment, it was as though heaven and earth were trembling uneasily. This sudden scene caused everyone inside and outside of the Thunder Saint Palace to fall into a daze. The anticipated scene of Chu Hen being smashed to pieces did not appear. Instead, what replaced it was an even more shocking and horrifying scene. The huge blood-red scythe that appeared out of thin air intercepted the destructive giant hammer without any warning. All of their gazes were filled with shock and astonishment as they looked at the other enormous demonic shadow that appeared behind Chu Hen. It was a figure that sat on a stone chair made of bones. It had a pair of pitch-black eyes without a trace of white. From afar, it looked as mysterious as a bottomless abyss. The giant scythe in its hand seemed to have been casually swung out and blocked Lei Aoqiong's fatal blow. This is... What monster? How terrifying! Shock, surprise, confusion, and doubt filled everyone's hearts. What appeared in front of everyone was definitely a spectacular scene. Turbulent waves of air whistled through the air and swept in all directions. The thunder god's phantom that was covered in lightning was earth-shattering. On the other hand, there was a shadow that emitted a boundless evil aura that made people feel an indescribable fear from the bottom of their hearts. What's that? More than 10 miles away from the Thunder Saint Palace, Xing Yi, the palace master of the Nine Magnificence Palace, and Gong Yangyu, the sect leader of Mount Kuan-Lu, stopped fighting and stared solemnly at the sky above the Thunder Saint Palace. What a terrifying evil aura! What is that? Qiao Yong, the sect leader of the Thousand World sect, asked in a low voice with a frown. Everyone's gaze turned to Gong Yangyu. However, Gong Yangyu shook his head and did not answer. Compared to the others around him, this was the second time Gong Yangyu had sensed this aura. The first time was during the massacre in the Xian Kuan Shao region. Previously, Gong Yangyu did not know the specifics. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, he felt an indescribable fear. Humph, that's someone from Mount Koanlu. How could you not know? Xingyi said coldly. Gong Yangyu still did not reply. This was because he could clearly sense that the sinister aura coming from Chu Hen's body was becoming increasingly cold. It was impossible for ordinary humans to be so evil. Even though Qiao Yong and Xing Yi, these two peak figures of the Eastern Victory State, were experienced and knowledgeable, they were still unable to determine what the enormous shadow with surging evil energy was in a short period of time. It was even more difficult to believe that Chu Hen still had such a shocking trump card. Their intuition told them that something even more shocking was yet to come. Hee. The ethereal and distant strange laughter seemed to pass through the vast sea of people and the barren ancient city, carrying a chill that poured into the depths of one's soul. Lei Aoqiong's eyes were ghastly like cold blades as he stood within the image of the lightning god. Besides feeling shocked, only boundless killing intent surged out from his eyes. You're really surprising me more and more. Ha 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 ha, Lei Aoqiong let out a maniacal laugh. The nine heavens' lightning tribulation continued to strike down. It was like 100 rivers of the Milky Way, pouring into the enormous body of the thunder god Qi. Pung pung. The heavy hammer that spat out lightning arcs and the four-leaf sickle that flickered with the light of blood instantly collided, bursting out balls of sparks and layers of flaming light waves. The unprecedented spectacular scene could be said to be earth-shattering. The sky darkened and the clouds surged. All sorts of patterns of light flew in the void like rain. Looking from afar, it was like two giant gods were fighting each other. What a disgusting expression! Chu Hen's gaze turned cold, and the evil god behind him immediately released a baleful and evil aura that overflowed the heavens. A powerful airwave surged out, and the huge blood-colored scythe exploded with a scarlet blood-colored radiance. Bang! An explosive sound rang out. Sparks flew in all directions, and electric arcs were like rain. That lightning god heavy hammer was directly bounced off, then, the blood-colored scythe swung upwards. Xiao! An incomparably swift and fierce crescent blood blade slashed through the air. It was like a light shuttle that could trace back thousands of years, dragging a vigorous cyclone behind it as it slashed towards the thunder god's real shadow. Bang! The terrifying power was like a divine ray that poured into a mountain, and a huge crack appeared on the thunder god's real shadow's body. The unstoppable shadow blade penetrated the thunder god's shadow, went straight inside, and hit Lei Aoqiong's body squarely. A string of blood splattered in the air, and a long and narrow wound appeared on Lei Aoqiong's chest. What terrifying power! The hearts of everyone present were filled with shock. However, Lei Aoqiong was so angry that he laughed. He wiped the blood on his chest with one hand, and a ferocious look like that of a wild beast exploded in his eyes. Congratulations, you've successfully angered my murderous intent again. Lei Aoqiong roared angrily, and his anger continued to rise, increasing exponentially. Anyone would be able to sense the rapidly rising hatred and resentment coming from the other party. It could not be any worse. This was unprecedented. He stared fiercely at the young figure that was releasing endless evil energy, and his eyes were spitting fire. You really deserve to die. Deserve to die. His roar shook the heavens, and it shook the soul. Lei Aoqiong's expression became incomparably ferocious, and at the same time, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Buzz! In the next instant, a wave of golden illusionary flame spread from within his body. The aura of the lightning god phantasm also multiplied. Layers of wild and violent golden flames covered the entire body of the lightning giant. An unprecedented majestic aura directly suppressed the entire place. What? In an instant, the space within a radius of tens of thousands of meters became restless. Even Sect Master Qiao Yong of the Thousand World Sect, Palace Master Xing Yi of the Nine Magnificence Palace, and Gong Yangyu's group couldn't help but turn pale with fright. He's actually burning his life force. Xiao Yong frowned, and his expression was solemn. Xing Yi also clenched his fists. This guy, burning his life force, was an extreme secret technique. Although it allowed one to explode with greater power for a short period of time, its greatest side effect was the loss of one's lifespan. It was true that ancient Eternals could live forever, but that didn't mean they could never die. But once they burned their life force, they would lose at least a few hundred years of their lifespan. It was definitely a loss of 800 years. From this, it could be seen just how angry Lei Aoqiong was. Just how much did he want to kill Chu Hen? Before Xiao Yong and Xing Yi could recover from their shock, Gong Yangyu's figure had already turned into a streak of light and shot forward. The Thunder Saint Palace's side could be said to have thrown the world into chaos. Gales raged, wreaking havoc in the sky. In the blink of an eye, Lei Aoqiong's skin was already wrinkled, and silver strands appeared in his black hair. The corner of his mouth was stained with blood, making him look even more like a demon from hell. To be able to force me to this point, you should be proud. Today, all those who offend my Thunder Saint Palace will be executed. Rumble, tens of thousands of lightning bolts fell from the sky, and everything in the world lost their splendor. Everyone felt as if doomsday had arrived. The expressions of the people from Mount Kunliu changed again and again, and their eyes trembled again and again. However, the young figure standing in front of the lightning giant that was covered in golden flames was still as dazzling as a star. Everything that had happened today was all caused by him. There was no fear or panic on his face. There was only a depth that others couldn't see through. Facing Lei Aoqiong, who was willing to sacrifice everything to kill him, Chu Hen's eyes rippled slightly. It seems like I'll have to use it in the end, buzz buzz. Chu Hen slowly closed his eyes, then suddenly opened them. In the next instant, his demonic purple pupils were actually suffused with a hint of evil red kiki. Then, a strange, bone-chilling howl resounded through the sky. The hearts of everyone present trembled. They could only see the demonic figure sitting on the skull chair in the sky behind Chu Hen, letting out a complacent laugh. That pair of ink-black, abyss-like eyes looked at Chu Hen as if it was looking at its own masterpiece. It raised its other hand, and its huge palm face down. Sharp thorns shot out of its palm, swish, swish, swish. The thorns rapidly extended, and then they actually stabbed into Chu Hen's back. Nearly 100 thorns had all sunk deep into his flesh. Big Brother Chu Hen, Yi Yao, who was in the area below, was so shocked that her pretty face turned pale. Long Xuanshuang, Danzhen, Mu Feng, Leng Lingyan, the Flying Immortal Temple Master, and even Lei Zhe and Lei Zhixin from the Thunder Saint Palace were also shocked. No one knew what Chu Hen was doing. Did this is a sacrifice? Lei Xiaolan, who had been standing behind Lei Zhixin, couldn't help but tremble. Kiki! Accompanied by the increasingly shrill laughter of the evil god, a rain of blood quietly rose between heaven and earth. What was even more shocking was that streaks of illusory bloody light actually flew out from the ruins below. These bloody lights came from the corpses of those who had died in the fierce battle. The evil god's power was born from slaughter, and it was born from destruction. The more slaughter, the more power Chu Hen obtained. There were tens of thousands of slaughters here, and an unparalleled power of slaughter was rapidly gathering. The wind and rain of blood were monstrous. Endless blood light gathered in all directions around Chu Hen like a tornado. The endless amount of evil energy released caused the temperature of the entire world to drop to zero. Chu Hen's eyes were bloodshot, and the curve of his lips was like a curved knife. At this moment, he seemed to be the evil god that had descended into the world. From today onwards, there will no longer be a Thunder Saint Palace in this world, an irresistible sentence. It was like a sentence from the god of death. Lei Aoqiong laughed loudly. Ha 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 ha, then let's see if you have the ability. Surrounded by countless bolts of lightning, the heavy hammer with the power to lift a mountain was raised high. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, and a storm raged. A power that could destroy heaven and earth rose like a tsunami. At the same time, The power of slaughter that filled the world quickly entered Chu Hen's body from all directions. The incomparably violent evil god's power was like a torrent, crazily entering his meridians, flesh, and even starting to seep into his soul. Chu Hen's power and aura increased at an extremely fast speed. He instantly reached the peak of the 7th level of the sky profound realm. Everyone inside and outside of the Thunder Saint Palace was shocked. But as Chu Hen's cultivation increased, his aura also became evil and cold. The emotions revealed by those eyes were no longer human emotions. Fear. It wasn't just the people of the Thunder Saint Palace. At this moment, even those close to him, like Yi Yao, Long Xuanshuang, Haozi, and Mu Feng, felt an indescribable fear. This feeling was as if the real Chu Hen was about to disappear, and what was about to be created was an evil creature of slaughter. The world spun and the world moved. Roar! Roar! The many demonic beasts below all roared at the sky, as if welcoming the arrival of the evil god. Screech! Just as Chu Hen's aura was about to reach the 8th level of the sky profound realm, a loud and passionate phoenix cry suddenly reverberated in his mind. This phoenix cry was like the sound of nature that passed through the vast mountains and rivers, and the infinite stars. It passed through layers of heartstrings, and reached the depths of his soul. Suddenly, the connection between Chu Hen and the evil god was abruptly cut off, and the slaughter energy that was crazily injected into Chu Hen's body was all shattered. Then, a 7-colored light surged out of his body like a divine cloud, like a gorgeous colorful flame burning the sky. Chu Hen was stunned. He frowned and asked in a deep voice, "Why?" "I'm sorry," a clear and melodious voice was transmitted, completely different from the hoarse and deep voice in the past. "I'm very sorry about what happened to Luo Mengcheng, but you really should stop. Enough is enough." Hua, as soon as he finished speaking, a mighty multicolored flame surged out of Chu Hen's chest. Among the 7-colored divine light, a slender and tall figure appeared in front of Chu Hen's eyes. Her beautiful long hair danced in the wind, like a fairy bathed in fire. Rumble! At the same time, the destructive thunder and lightning hammer once again set off endless death energy, falling toward Chu Hen, and the whole sky was trembling. "Disappear!" Lei Aoqiong roared angrily. The rolling thunder and lightning storm fell like a raging tide. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. At this time, the slender and gentle figure that suddenly appeared in front of Chu Hen turned around. From the side of her beautiful face, to the face that was not tainted by a trace of the mortal world, to the gaze that was moving over, it was like a glimpse of a startled swan, causing people to feel an unforgettable breathtaking feeling. "Remember, don't use that power again. In the future, you will have to rely on yourself." Her red lips moved slightly, and her beauty was more stunning than the snow lotus in the sky. Their eyes met, and 10,000 years passed in a single glance. "When we meet again, I hope you can surprise me." When they meet again, when the prosperity fell, the sky was full of dust. Chu Hen's pupils shrank, and his heart felt like it was being pulled by an invisible hand. Hua, in an instant, a colorful light shrouded the slender, tall, and beautiful figure. Then, like a huge lotus flower in full bloom, a terrifying aura surged out. Screech! Along with the peerless cry of a phoenix, a divine bird with a wingspan of more than 1,000 meters rushed out of the light. It was dazzling and full of vigor. Chapter 956. That's, looking at the enormous divine bird that had suddenly appeared in the sky, everyone inside and outside of the Thunder Saint Palace who had witnessed all of this revealed expressions of deep shock. Divine light filled the sky, and sacred radiance was like fire. The entire sky seemed to be engulfed in a blazing cloud that swept across the heavenly river. "Disappear!" Lei Aoqiong's crazed roar was deafening. His scarlet eyes and distorted face were as sinister as a demon from hell. The surging power of wind and lightning exploded in the sky, shaking the mountains and rivers in all directions. At the cost of burning his life force, Lei Aoqiong wanted to kill Chu Hen. Rumble! The real silhouette of the lightning giant, covered in golden flames, directly unleash the most terrifying attack. The huge hammer smashed down like a mountain, and thousands of lightning tribulations coiled around it like silver pythons and lightning dragons. It was dazzling like a divine artifact that could destroy the world. The heavens in all directions were trembling incessantly. Everything in the world submitted to Lei Aoqiong's monstrous power. A screech. At the same time, a huge fire lotus bloomed in the area in front of Chu Hen. Surging waves of heat covered the sky and earth, accompanied by a resounding phoenix cry. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow, surrounded by multicolored divine light, spread its wings over 1,000 meters wide. The imposing aura that looked down on all things was like a divine phoenix descending to the world. Endless light and sacred radiance shone like the sun in the sky. Then, under everyone's astonished gazes, the enormous real silhouette of the heavenly flame sparrow swept up an earth-shattering might to meet the attack. Bang! Boom! It was earth-shattering, and the sky exploded. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow, which was over 1,000 meters long, collided with the lightning giant's hammer. In that instant, the world lost color and huge waves surged into the sky. Like a collision between a meteorite and a star, a terrifying storm of air swept across the sky. Rings of light and flames rose into the sky, and dazzling waves of light swept out. The multicolored divine light mixed with tens of thousands of lightning arcs wantonly danced in the air. The ground trembled and rocks shot into the sky. The scene before them seemed to have fallen into an illusion. Bang! A violent explosion followed, and the pupils of everyone present couldn't help but shrink. They saw the heavy hammer in the hand of the lightning giant shatter inch by inch, shattering in an unbelievable manner. What terrifying power! Where did this guy come from? How could he have so many terrifying trump cards? The mountain-like heavy hammer was like an exploding sun. Billions of lightning bolts flickered in the sky and illuminated the earth. The powerful multicolored divine light did not slow down and continued to howl. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow's eyes were like the stars, the sun and the moon. It revealed an incomparable determination as it charged toward Lei Aoqiong, who was in the shadow of the lightning giant. Fury, surprise, astonishment, and extreme hatred and rage converged on Lei Aoqiong's face. In the end, it transformed into frenzied killing intent that didn't care about anything. Whoosh! Lei Aoqiong's long hair danced wildly in the wind. In an instant, his hair had turned white and his face was full of wrinkles. Strange flames erupted from him like raging waves, and the lightning giant that enveloped him became especially solid. Its terrifying aura was like that of a god of war. Everyone was shocked by Lei Aoqiong's actions. At this point, he and Chu Hen would definitely not rest until one of them was dead. He burned a large amount of his life force, no longer caring about the consequences. Meanwhile, Chu Hen, who was standing behind the sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow, looked a little lost. The scene that had just happened kept repeating in his mind. Just a few seconds ago, that slender and gentle figure had turned sideways without the slightest bit of precaution. From the side profile of that peerlessly beautiful face to that pure and untainted complexion, that flowing gaze was like a glimpse of a startling swan. It was an unforgettable, breathtaking sight. He had been caught off guard. It was like a shallow footprint inadvertently left in the snow, pouring into his memory. Remember, don't use that power again. In the future, you will have to rely on yourself. Her red lips parted slightly, and her voice was not as hoarse as it used to be. Instead, it was as mellow as glass. Even though it was the first time he had heard it, it was strangely familiar. The stunning scene was even more stunning than the snow lotuses in the sky. When their eyes met, it was as if 10,000 years had passed in a single glance. When we meet again, I hope that you will amaze me. When they meet again, when the bustling scene came to an end, when everyone had left, Chu Hen's pupils trembled, as if he had just walked out of an illusion and woken up from a dream. Everything in the world paled in comparison. That incomparably majestic scene that seemed as if it could tear the sky apart was truly shocking. "Come back!" Chu Hen could not help but call out. However, as he listened to the slightly trembling voice behind him, the pair of star-like eyes in front of him became even more dazzling. Screech! A loud and clear phoenix cry resounded through the sky. The divine bird with a wingspan of over 1,000 meters erupted with an endless aura of destruction, and immediately transformed into a giant shadow blade that pierced through the sky. The huge blade shocked the heavens, and its momentum pierced through the sky. Lei Aoqiong's eyes were sinister, and his expression was ferocious. He, good timing. He burned his life force wantonly, and the power of his sacred body of thunder was completely unleashed. Rumble, huge lightning dragons entwined around the giant's illusory body. Then, the giant's arms, which had the power to pierce through the heavens, blasted towards the shadow blade. Bang! Clang! The collision of the two could be said to be earth-shattering. An unprecedented storm of power collided, instantly igniting the ninth heaven tide. The 1,000-meter-wide shadow blade was like a crescent moon flying from the heavens, and it collided head-on with the lightning giant. Turbulence resounded through the sky. An earth-shattering shockwave spread out, and everyone from the Thunder Saint Palace and Mount Kunliu was sent flying. Layers of rubble and rubble were crushed into powder, colorful rays of light dyed the entire sky. Countless bolts of lightning shot out in all directions. The doomsday-like scene caused everyone's pupils to tremble. Screech! The Shadow Wing's divine blade was peerlessly powerful and incomparable. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, it chopped off the arms of the lightning giant with a heavenly light that could cut through the tides and waves. Then, it forcibly poured into the lightning giant's body, and arrived in front of Lei Aoqiong. Fear appeared on Lei Aoqiong's face for the first time. The Grim Reaper's footsteps were fast. "No!" Lei Aoqiong shouted unwillingly. At the same time, everyone from the Thunder Saint Palace cried out in shock, trembling. Time did not stop, and neither did space. Screech! The Shadow Wing God blade mercilessly sliced the lightning giant in two, slicing through its chest. The Thunder Saint Palace's sacred Lord Qiong, a peak ancient eternal realm expert, was also sliced into two. A rain of blood sprayed through the air, and a short and hurried scream became the sound that lingered in everyone's ears. Lei Aoqiong's body was sliced in half. Unease, fear, and resentment quietly froze on his face. The entire world seemed to have slowed down, and the scene in front of them instantly caused everyone's mind to go blank. Lei Aoqiong had lost. The Thunder Saint Palace had lost. The impact of this unshakable colossus on everyone's hearts was unimaginable. Chu Hen's eyes were wide open. He felt as if a lifetime had passed. He had never thought that the sacred wing Heavenly Flame Sparrow would use such a method to prevent him from receiving the evil god's killing power. At the same time, Chu Hen knew very well what the consequences of his opponent's actions were. All of this had happened too suddenly. The emotions in Chu Hen's heart were hard to describe. Unspeakable sorrow, sadness, and guilt. Could it be that he was going to lose another friend? His regret and longing for Luo Mengchang multiplied. Even though he had flattened the Thunder Saint Palace, the shackles in his heart were still strong. Ah! Lei Aoqiong let out an extremely unwilling roar. He looked at the young figure in front of him from afar, and his boundless hatred rapidly swelled. Let's be annihilated together. Screech! As soon as he finished speaking, Lei Aoqiong's body exploded, and a powerful storm surged out of the nine heavens. Chapter 957. Hiss! An incomparably heavy and violent tremor swept across the sky once again, and a sky-high energy storm surged out from the nine heavens. The enormous wave of energy and lightning was like a tornado, and Lei Aoqiong's body instantly exploded into thousands of pieces. The terrifying energy covered the sky and extended into the sky above the Thunder Saint Palace. Oh my God! Everyone in and out of the Thunder Saint Palace turned pale with fright. Their hearts trembled, and they couldn't help but feel as if they were in a dream. Ancient eternal realm, Lei Aoqiong. To think that he would die like this in this world. At this moment, everyone in the Thunder Saint Palace was filled with despair, and their faces were filled with endless sorrow. In the next instant, the earth-shattering power, which was like a storm whirlpool, drowned Chu Hen within it. Big Brother Chu Hen, Yi Yao, Long Xuanshuang, Mu Feng Haozi, and the rest all paled. But then, a piercingly cold aura flashed through the chaotic energy storm. It's the sect master, the Demon Slayer Hall leader Wen Liang and the Void Hall leader Xie Wuhe exclaimed in unison. The rest of Mount Kunliu also revealed expressions of disbelief and joy. Sect master? Could it be? Gong Yangyu, that's right, it's Gong Yangyu. A commotion that was filled with astonishment immediately arose in the surroundings, especially the spectators in the outer regions, who were extremely surprised. Gong Yangyu, who had disappeared for almost 20 years, actually appeared at this time? In Gong Yangyu's hand was Chu Hen, who had already fainted. His handsome face looked pale and skinny, and his entire body was covered with cuts and bruises. It made people sigh, but also made them palpitate unspeakably. It's over. Rest well. Gong Yangyu sighed softly. Before the crowd could react to Gong Yangyu's sudden appearance, an even more shocking figure appeared. Look, over there. Wan World Sect and Zhihua Palace, what? My God, even the two of them, Hua! The hearts of the people present could be said to be rising and falling like waves. In the sky above the area behind Gong Yangyu, two other transcendent figures with peerless auras quietly appeared under the sky. Myriad World Sect leader, Qiao Yong. The palace master of Zhihua Palace, Xing Yi. Everyone could no longer express their emotions. If Lei Aoqiong was included, then the three Eternal Realm experts of the victorious Dong Prefecture were all here. However, there would never be such a day in the future. Qiao Yong and Xing Yi's appearance caused everyone to freeze on the spot. However, their faces were also surging with indescribable complexity. Lei Aoqiong had lost. In the eyes of the world, that 1 in 10 million probability had become a reality. The entire Thunder Saint Palace had been defeated by Chu Hen alone. From today onwards, the three great sects were no longer invincible existences. In his shock, Thunder Saint Palace head Lei Zhe clenched his fist. Hatred and murderous intent spewed from his eyes. But just as he was about to vent all his anger on the remaining people of Mount Kunlu, Gong Yangyu's gaze shot towards him like a sharp sword. Lei Zhe's mind shook. When he met Gong Yangyu's gaze, it was as if he was facing the threat of death. In that instant, Lei Zhe seemed to understand something. His entire face became pale and powerless. Thunder Saint Palace was truly finished. Do the two of you have any other instructions? Gong Yangyu turned to look at Qiao Yong and Xing Yi. The two looked at each other and couldn't help but shake their heads and smile bitterly. Instruction? What else was there to instruct? Even Lei Aoqiong was dead. What else could they do? Even if they killed Chu Hen now, it would not change the fate of Thunder Saint Palace. Moreover, if they attacked the unconscious Chu Hen now, not only would Gong Yangyu protect him with his life, the Wan World Sect and Zhihua Palace would also become the laughingstock of the world in the future. After a long period of dead silence, a sigh was heard. Sigh. Qiao Yong sighed meaningfully. Your Mount Kunliu has really thrown us a terrible mess. Qiao Yong's reply had already explained everything. Gong Yangyu nodded slightly and said loudly, Since that's the case, I will take my leave first. I'll have to trouble the two of you, humph. Xing Yi snorted coldly. Qiao Yong waved his hand and didn't say anything else. Gong Yangyu's gaze turned cold. His aura was as imposing as a mountain as he shouted, Return to Mount Kunliu. Yes. Sect Master. Everyone replied in unison. Immediately, the people of Mount Kunliu retreated from Thunder Saint Palace like the tide. Many demonic beasts roared towards the sky and left in a wave of earth-shattering roars. No one in Thunder Saint Palace dared to stop them. The world had no doubt that if it wasn't for the arrival of the One World sect and Zhihua Palace, Mount Kunliu would have completely massacred Thunder Saint Palace. The weather changed and the province fell into chaos. In the blink of an eye, the prosperous Thunder Saint Palace was reduced to ruins. Watching the people of Mount Kunliu leave, everyone in Thunder Saint Palace felt powerless. Mountains were flattened, luxurious buildings were reduced to ruins, and thousands of broken corpses were scattered everywhere. Lei Jixin stood in a pile of rubble in a daze. All of this was thanks to Chu Hen. The cold wind whistled, and there was a bone-piercing chill. Palace Master Lei Jie raised his head blankly and looked at the two powerful figures in the sky. What was the fate of Thunder Saint Palace going to do next? The heavens and earth changed, and the province changed. No one remembered how that day ended. The only memory that remained in everyone's mind was the collapse of the mountains when the 7 stars fell from the sky, as well as the fierce battle that shook the heavens and earth. After the Heavenly Empire and the Valley of Innocence was reduced to ruins, the victorious Dong province finally welcomed an unprecedented upheaval. The unshakable behemoth Thunder Saint Palace became the last sacrifice for Chu Hen's revenge. In just a few months, more than 1 million people in the victorious Dong province lost their lives. 2 top sects and a giant force were destroyed one after another. A pair of small wings flapped, stirring up a storm that engulfed the province. Chu Hen's name not only resounded throughout the victorious Dong province, but also spread to other parts of the eastern continent. When the Taiqing sect, Wind and Cloud Pavilion, Heavenly Bamboo Peak, and other sects received the news that Thunder Saint Palace had been destroyed, they felt as if the sky had collapsed. The appearance of Gong Yangyu, Qiao Yong, and Xing Yi, 2 ancient Eternal Realm experts, at the same time also caused people to speculate. Later on, there was even news that Gong Yangyu had reached the ancient Eternal State as well. During the battle between Chu Hen and Lei Aoqiong, an intense battle had also erupted in another area several kilometers away from Thunder Saint Palace, and the ones fighting were Gong Yangyu and Xing Yi. When this news came out, all the sects in the province fell into a deep unease. If that was really the case, one Gong Yangyu and one Chu Hen would be unrivaled in the entire victorious Dong province. Chapter 958. It had been a year since the opening of the ancient Desolation Heaven Domain, and the entire Eastern Victory Province had undergone an earth-shattering change. The ranking of the major sects, which had been stable for 1,000 years, finally welcomed an earth-shattering reshuffle. The Thunder Saint Palace, a colossal existence, was completely uprooted in just a day. Its supreme soul, Lei Aoqiong, had died in battle. This battle had made Chu Hen and the entire Mount Kunliu. It had also caused the Eastern Victory Province to be plunged into a chaotic whirlpool for a long period of time. However, under this turbulent province, there were also many undercurrents surging. "Master!" A voice filled with reverence and respect quietly broke the silence in the darkness. This was a spacious and luxurious hall. Whether it was the floor tiles, the pillars, or the steps, they all exuded an extraordinary and mysterious aura. "The heaven-diverting token has appeared, Buzz." When the 3 words "heaven-diverting token" were spoken, the airflow in the hall seemed to tremble. A figure sitting at the top of the hall suddenly stood up. This person was burly, and his entire body was shrouded in a gorgeous blue robe. His hands were as thin and sharp as an eagle's claws. Could it be related to the series of upheavals in the Eastern Victory Province? "Master is wise. The heaven-diverting token is with Chu Hen." A figure at the center of the hall respectfully knelt on the ground. His aura was as cold as a frost blade. "Continue," the blue-robed old man replied coldly. A year ago, Chu Hen was merely an ordinary disciple of Mount Kunliu, and his cultivation was only at the profound world realm. However, after he came out of the ancient Desolation Heaven Domain, his strength continued to soar, and he even took the lives of millions of people. In the Battle of the Thunder Saint Palace, Lei Aoqiong died in battle. Moreover, this subordinate personally witnessed the descent of the evil god's phantom. The last sentence was spoken with great certainty, and his tone was unusually firm. Truly astonishing. The figure at the top of the hall muttered in a low voice. From the profound world realm to the ancient eternity realm in less than a year. The heaven-diverting token is indeed a fascinating power. Master, please instruct me. The cold and gloomy figure in the middle of the hall lifted his eyelids, which flickered with a cold light. However, the blue-robed elder shook his head. We can't act rashly for now. Right now, that Chu Hen can be said to be the focus of everyone's attention. Once we make a move, it will definitely arouse the suspicions of the other sacred clans. If we mess up like last time and the Lord blames us, none of us will be able to bear the consequences. As soon as he heard the word Lord, the sharp aura on the other party's body immediately retracted. It was as if he was a god that existed everywhere. Even if he released too much of his aura, it would be a form of disrespect. Silence suffused the air, and even the air seemed to be slightly frozen. The old man in the blue robe pondered for a while. A pair of dark green eyes under the dark black robe was as frightening as a poisonous snake. The Eastern continent has clearly stated that the Saint race is not allowed to intervene in the grievances between the various provinces, and they are also not allowed to attack them without reason. Also, send people to keep a close eye on Mount Kuan-Lu's every move. Once this matter blows over, we will secretly take action to seize it. As for the Qitian token, understood. The blue-robed elder waved his hand and said, You may leave. Then, the figure's body twisted and floated like a ghost, like a reflection on the surface of the water. The next moment, a flash of light flashed, and the figure disappeared from where he stood. Looking at the empty great hall, the blue-robed elder let out a deep sigh. The Qitian token, the heretic god's power. It's really amazing. Then, the blue-robed elder walked down the steps and left the great hall. About half an hour later, the figure came to a palace shrouded in mysterious colorful light. This palace seemed to be bathed in divine light, and it was as dazzling as an immortal's palace. The old man walked into the palace with light and steady step. What was surprising was that although the outside of the palace was dazzling and resplendent, the inside was especially dark and cold. At first glance, only the luminous pearls inlaid on the walls glowed with a misty light. The empty great hall was gloomy and cold. The Lord, the blue-robed elder, walked to the bottom of the great hall, bowed, and muttered to himself. The Qitian token has appeared again. Swoosh! In an instant, a figure sitting on a spacious stone throne in the great hall quietly opened his eyes. Under the dim light, it was impossible to see the figure's face clearly. Only a blurry and cold outline could be seen. Emitting a supreme majesty, his piercingly cold gaze was like a sword, coldly staring at the figure kneeling in the middle of the great hall. For more than 10 days, the chaos in the Eastern Victory Prefecture continued. However, Mount Kunliu ushered in the calm after the storm. It was just that under this calm, there was some uneasiness in the crowd. This uneasiness originated from one person. It's been more than half a month. Why is Chu Hen still in a coma? Let's ask sect leader Gong Yang to come and take a look later. But sect leader Gong Yang said that his injuries have all healed. That's right. Hua Shui also can't find any problems with Chu Hen's body. That's strange. This guy is really anxious. In an elegant courtyard, Mu Feng, Haozi, Yi Yao, Long Xuan, and the rest were all frowning as they gathered together. During the battle that day, due to Gong Yang Yu's timely arrival, Chu Hen did not suffer any fatal injuries. In addition, these days, Hua Shui wholeheartedly treated him. Logically speaking, he should have woken up long ago. However, he did not open his eyes for more than 10 days. This kind of situation really made them feel uneasy. I think you guys don't have to worry too much. Hua Shui stood up and said with certainty, I've checked just now. Chu Hen's breathing is very stable. There are definitely no other injuries on his body. As for why he hasn't woken up after so long, it must be because he suffered too much from losing Lady Mengshang. The mental burden is making him unwilling to face reality. He might wake up after a few more days. At the mention of Luo Mengshang, the crowd could not help but feel pity. Long Xuanxuang's red lips moved slightly. She shook her head and sighed. Everyone, go back first? Let him be alone for a while. The crowd did not say much. They nodded solemnly and left one after another. In the blink of an eye, the spacious courtyard became extraordinarily quiet. In the spacious and bright room, the window was open. One could see the azure sky and the picturesque scenery outside. The gentle spring breeze blew in from the window and shook the blue flower petals in the vase on the table. Chu Hen quietly laid on the bed and changed into clean and tidy clothes. On his handsome cheeks, a few faint scars that had not completely disappeared could be faintly seen. Mengshang, he murmured in a low voice. Chu Hen could not help but frown. Even in his sleep, he seemed to be deeply immersed in grief. However, at this moment, the sound of a flute drifted over from an unknown place. This flute sound was especially ethereal and crisp. It touched the soul and tugged at the heartstrings. It was beautiful and pleasant. At this moment, Chu Hen's eyelids trembled slightly. His tightly furrowed brows also slowly relaxed. Then, he slowly opened his eyes. Everyone's attention was focused on the beautiful sound of the flute. It was as if he had seen it before. It also seemed like a summoning. Chu Hen got up from the bed in a daze. His slightly weak face looked a little pale. Then, he walked out of the room. As if he was being led by the flute sound, he walked in a certain direction. He did not alarm anyone along the way. It seemed like other than Chu Hen, no one else could hear that strange flute sound. Not long after, Chu Hen arrived at the side of a bridge. The bridge was located between two cliffs. It was quite imposing. On the other side of the bridge stood a figure wrapped in a loose black robe. The person was holding an emerald jade flute in his hand. His fair and slender fingers were nimbly pressing on the flute's holes. Under the cover of the black robe, the person's entire face could not be seen. However, the person's clean and fair side profile could be seen. Chapter 959. It's you. Chu Hen's gaze froze as he spat out those two words. The sound of the flute came to an abrupt end. The woman in a loose black robe turned her body slightly. The atmosphere was slightly heavy, but it seemed to be reasonable. I'm sorry. I didn't protect her well. Chu Hen lowered his head. His pale face was filled with sadness. The woman nodded. The gentle and beautiful sunlight shone on her face below her nose. Her skin was so fair that it seemed transparent. I'm very surprised, she said. I'm sorry. Chu Hen still blamed himself. He clenched his fists so tightly that his nails dug deep into the flesh of his palms. The pain was numbing. I'm surprised that you would do everything for Mengshang, ha. Chu Hen's lips curled into a self-deprecating smile. I only hate myself for not being able to save Mengshang back then. No matter how much I did, she still left me. Parting is heartless, but longing is unforgettable. Stories always ended like that. Caught off guard, they would be separated from each other. Looking at Chu Hen's lonely and sad figure, the mysterious woman paused for a moment. Then, she slowly said, Put away your pointless sadness. She's not dead yet. Not dead yet. Buzz, Chu Hen's heartstrings trembled. He suddenly raised his head and stared at the woman. What did you say? I saw her being sucked into the space-devouring hole with my own eyes. How could? Facing Chu Hen's agitated questions, the other party was especially calm. There was not even a hint of sadness. The inheritor of the ninth nether holy body won't die so easily. Really? Chu Hen's voice was trembling. His eyes could not help but turn red. He asked again and again, Really? Say something. Where is she? Tell me, where is she? As Chu Hen spoke, he hurriedly ran across the bridge and arrived in front of the other party. However, the other party replied calmly, I don't know, you don't know? Chu Hen frowned and clenched his fists again. I really don't know, but I can confirm that she's still alive. I've left a spiritual mark on her body, so I can sense whether she's dead or alive. Spiritual power imprint? Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and a glimmer of light appeared in his eyes. What about the location? You can sense it too, right? If the distance is too great, it won't work. The other party replied, and then continued, if I'm not wrong, there might be a passage connecting two different planes behind the space-devouring hole. In other words, it's very likely that she was teleported to another area. Where could it be? What we can be sure of is that it has already surpassed the eastern continent. The world was as vast as the Milky Way. It was beyond the eastern continent, as if one was lost in the boundless heaven and earth of the myriad great worlds. Even so, Chu Hen was exceptionally excited. He answered without hesitation, I want to find her. Senior, please help me find her. Oh? Are you sure? Yes. Do you know that the eastern continent is boundless? This means that you'll be far away from the victorious East Province, and you might not find her for decades or even centuries. However, Chu Hen was still extremely determined. When do we leave? 3 months later. The other party replied. Do we have to wait that long? Chu Hen was a little anxious. The mysterious woman slowly put away the jade flute in her hand, and calmly replied, I need time to confirm the plane that the space-devouring hole might be connected to. Chu Hen was both surprised and happy, but at the same time, he was also a little impatient. As long as he could find the location of the space-devouring hole in the Xiankshetra region, he would be able to greatly reduce the search area. Can I help? Chu Hen was unwilling to just wait like this. However, the other party rejected him without even thinking about it. Although I don't want to hurt your feelings, you're still too weak now, especially to those people outside the eastern continent. Chu Hen could not take it anymore. He laughed dryly, thinking that the other party was really merciless. No matter what, he was still the person who defeated Lei Aoqiong, even though it was someone else who dealt the final blow. I'll come and find you in 3 months. Without waiting for Chu Hen to say anything more, the other party threw out a sentence, then turned into a distorted afterimage, disappearing into thin air. Chu Hen was stunned. What a strange movement technique. This person's cultivation was truly unfathomable. What was the relationship between her and Meng Chong? However, no matter what, when he heard that Meng Chong was still alive, Chu Hen suddenly felt that the god of fortune had favored him once again. As he recalled everything that had happened in the Xiankshetra region, Chu Hen's heart was constantly moved. Wait for me. No matter where you are, I'll definitely find you. He lifted his head to look at the azure sky. Everything was clear and translucent, and everything in the world seemed to have regained their bright colors. Brother Chu Hen, why are you here? We've been looking for you everywhere. At this moment, hurried footsteps could be heard hurriedly crossing the bridge. Yi Yao was the first to run to Chu Hen's side. She held on to his wrist nervously, as if she was afraid that he would take things too hard and jump off the cliff. Mu Feng, Hua Shui, Long Xuanshuang, Danjun, and the rest followed behind. I say, boss, you're finally awake. I thought you were kidnapped just now. Mu Feng smiled in relief. Looking at the concerned expressions of the people behind him, Chu Hen revealed a grateful smile. I've brought you trouble these past few days. It was a smile and a warm aura that they had not seen in a long time. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like the Chu Hen from before had returned. Brother Chu Hen, it's great that you're all right. Yi Yao was overjoyed. Her big, bright eyes shone with an enchanting light. Chu Hen smiled and said to the crowd, In 3 months, I'll go look for Meng Chong. What? The moment he said that, everyone's hearts, which had just relaxed a little, tensed up again. Mu Feng spread his hands and sighed helplessly. All right, I thought that guy had come back to life. It seems like he's still crazy. Shut up, you. Yi Yao glared at Mu Feng, then held on to Chu Hen's hand. Brother Chu Hen, don't be like this. Sister Meng Chong definitely wouldn't want to see you like this. Chu Hen could not help but find it funny. What were these people talking about? He then explained, Meng Chong isn't dead. She's still alive. I'm going to look for her. Everyone was speechless. Mu Feng even pointed at his head and shook his head vigorously. Helpless, Chu Hen could only tell them about how a mysterious person had taken Luo Menchang away when he first came to Mount Kuan-Lu, and how that mysterious person had appeared just now. Everyone was skeptical and looked at each other in dismay. Boss, are you sure you're not dreaming? Mu Feng asked. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Chu Hen was tired and did not explain further. But seeing Chu Hen's serious expression, Long Xuanxuang was the first to believe him. She was also relieved that Luo Mengchang was safe. You're all here. Suddenly, Haozi's voice came from behind. Chu Hen, look who's here, who's here? Everyone was startled at first. Then, they turned to look behind Haozi and saw dozens of travel-worn silhouettes walking towards them. Sister-in-law, Principal Jiang, President Qiao. Why are you all here? Chu Hen was surprised. The newcomers were none other than Long Qingyang's fiancée, Su Yorong, the former administrator of Tensei Prefecture and the current president of the Academy's Alliance in the 100 Nations state, and the president of the Engraver Guild, Qiao Yong. There was also his former mentor, Song Chunglai, his good friend, Yu Chenyu, Li Hui, and the others. As he swept his gaze across the crowd, all of them were familiar faces. Brat, why didn't you inform us earlier that such a big thing had happened? Su Yurong took the lead and walked in front of Chu Hen. There seemed to be a trace of reproach in her eyes, but more of it was the love of a family member. Alliance leader, we're late. It's great that you're fine. Principal Jiang, President Qiao, and the others were both ashamed and emotional. About a month ago, the Alliance of Generals received the news of the chaos in the Eastern Victory Province and knew that Chu Hen was in trouble. So, the entire Alliance of Generals packed up and set sail. They directly rushed to the province at top speed to support Chu Hen. However, the distance between the two places was extremely far for the Alliance. Without a large-scale transportation array, even though the Alliance didn't stop along the way, they still missed the Battle of the Thunder Saint Palace. This was why Su Yorong, Principal Jiang, and the others felt ashamed. Even so, Chu Hen's heart was filled with deep gratitude. The fact that they were able to come was enough to prove everything. Sister-in-law, I've made you all worry, Chu Hen said in a low voice. Su Yorong shook her head. It's good that you're fine. Then, Long Xuanxuang took a few steps forward. She raised her eyebrows and opened her red lip. So, I have to call you sister-in-law from now on? Su Yorong's eyes lit up. Xuanxuang, you're here too. Long time no see. When they first arrived in the Hidden Wind region, Long Xuanxuang and Su Yorong had met before. However, Long Xuanxuang had gone to the mysterious ice sect, and they hadn't seen each other since. Now that they met again after so many years, it was truly a pity. Chapter 960. After learning that Luo Menchang was still alive, Chu Hen's mood changed from the bottom of the valley to the peak. Everything in the world seemed to have regained its color in an instant. At the same time, Su Yorong, Principal Jiang, and a group of friends and relatives from the General League came from the Sacred Star Dynasty to visit. This made Chu Hen's heart filled with gratitude and excitement. In these few short months, everything that had happened was like a dream. Now that he thought about it, even Chu Hen himself felt that it was too crazy. He even felt that those things were not done by him. After asking Danjun to help arrange guest rooms for Su Yorong, Principal Jiang, and the others, Chu Hen went alone to a lonely peak in the back of the mountain. It was quiet all around. The mountain breeze was gentle, blowing on his face like soft hair, calming him down. I can finally have some peace for a while. Chu Hen sat on a rock that was a few meters wide. He raised his gaze and looked straight into the azure sky. His eyes were as bright as the stars. Then, he retracted his aura, closed his eyes, and sent his divine sense into his violet mansion. Hua! A dazzling white light flashed, and the world in front of Chu Hen suddenly became clear. Violet Mansion. Compared to the time when he was in the profound world realm, the current Chu Hen's violet mansion could be said to have undergone a tremendous change. The mountains and rivers were like giant dragons crawling on the ground. Originally, there were only flowers, trees, earth, and rock. Now, the chaotic and hazy nine heavens had surprisingly become pure. Pure white clouds, azure blue sky, and a radiant sun hung high up in the sky. After Wu Xiu entered the profound world realm, he could derive his violet mansion world. After reaching the profound sky realm, the violet mansion world was considered to be basically formed. It could change between day and night. It could also absorb the spiritual energy of all things in the world, including the essence of the stars, sun, and moon. At that time, when the power of the sun, moon, and stars reached a shocking value, one could break through the limits of human lifespan. Once the profound sky realm was broken, one could break through the immemorial realm, and obtain a body of immortality, everlasting and indestructible. However, the amount of energy needed to advance from the profound heaven realm to the ancient eternal realm was enormous. Throughout the thousands of years of history of the Victory East State, only Qiao Yong, Xing Yi, Gong Yangyu, and Lei Aoqiong had achieved such a feat. The true origin violet palace of the seventh rank of the sky profound realm was as vast as a country. Chu Hen wasn't too surprised by the changes in front of him. After experiencing so many trials and tribulations of life and death, his state of mind had become even more stable. Hua. With just a thought, Chu Hen's spiritual consciousness directly arrived in front of a pair of huge monstrous eyes. The mysterious purple eyes floated in the air, as if they were the eyes of a demon god watching over the world. The 5 black dots in the depths of the pupils emitted a heart-palpitating rhythm, making people want to submit to it. 5-star demon eyes, both offensive and defensive. The defensive power of the shield of punishment was astonishing. As his cultivation continued to increase, the power of his sacred body became more and more apparent. However, at this moment, Chu Hen's attention was on the divine bird that was glowing with colorful light in front of the pair of demonic eyes. The sacred wing heavenly flame bird floated in the purple light screen released by the demonic eyes like a phantom. The other party's aura was as weak as a speck of dust, faintly discernible, and its aura was like gossamer. The flickering colorful light looked like a divine bird that had fallen into an endless slumber. When would it wake up? It seemed so far away. In the Battle of the Thunder Saint Palace, the final attack that killed Lei Aoqiong had used up all of the sacred wing heavenly flame bird's power. This caused her, who was already in the recovery period, to exhaust all of the energy she had accumulated. For Chu Hen, the other party was obviously a variable. If the Thunder Saint Palace wasn't destroyed, Mount Kunliu would be in danger, and the 100 Nations state would definitely perish. In a situation where there was no turning back, the only way was to use the heavenly Qi token to accept the power of the heretic god and transform into a demon. As for what the consequences would be, Chu Hen didn't have a choice. However, this variable forcefully pulled Chu Hen back from the hands of the heretic god. In exchange, it was the other party's eternal slumber. "I owe you a great favor," Chu Hen murmured softly. "I will find a way to wake you up as soon as possible, and I will help you return to your peak as soon as possible." Then, Chu Hen's divine sense scanned the other areas of the true essence purple mansion again. All kinds of strange and special powers made this independent world seem colorful. Buzz, a huge black tablet stood in the center of the land like a mountain. The black stone walls were covered with complicated ancient runes and secret scrolls, and the great Tao Divine Stone's fragments were shocking. Not far from the Divine Stone of the Great Path, there was a gigantic dragon skeleton. The dragon skeleton was obtained from the ancient burial dragon in the ancient desolate heaven realm. If the sacred wing heavenly flame bird hadn't insisted on taking it, Chu Hen wouldn't have even looked at it. However, now it seemed that placing this enormous dragon skeleton here was extremely awe-inspiring, and it caused this true essence violet palace to add quite a bit of a grandeur to it. Sizzle. Sizzle. A large area of thunderclouds gathered in the sky above the heaven realm. The thunderclouds rolled, and thousands of lightning bolts intertwined and flashed. From time to time, they formed a majestic thunderhawk, and then a domineering thunder beast Qilin. The small true essence purple mansion was filled with a lot of amazing power. However, the thing that made people's hearts palpitate the most was the pair of demonic purple eyes, as well as the black shadow that looked like a fiend god that could suppress heaven and earth. Then, Chu Hen retreated from the true essence purple mansion. Whoosh! A cool mountain breeze blew over, and some leaves on the ground were swept up. More than half an hour had passed before he knew it. Chu Hen didn't want to leave the back mountain. After all, he still had a lot of things to do. Buzz! Suddenly, Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he shouted in a deep voice, "Chaotic power!" Along with the strange power, a wisp of black light flowed out of his body, and then the air in front of him trembled slightly. The next moment, a black shadow quietly appeared in front of Chu Hen. The black shadow's height and shape were very similar to Chu Hen's. Chu Hen was both surprised and surprised. The black shadow was like him wrapped in darkness. And this was the power of the chaotic body. Few people in the world had two kinds of bloodlines. When he awakened the demonic pupil sacred body, the chaotic body already existed. Chu Hen had always been doubtful. Just what was the true face of his chaotic body? How much power could it evolve to in the end? He once thought that there was an extraordinary power, and it never disappointed Chu Hen. With the evolution of the demonic pupil sacred body, the chaotic body once again burst out an unimaginable power. "Let me uncover your secrets step by step." Chu Hen raised his left hand, and the black shadow in front of him also raised its palm. Their palms were facing each other. Then, Chu Hen slowly closed both of his eyes, then suddenly opened them. Hua! A powerful airwave spread out, and his pupils instantly turned into a bewitching purple color. It had been a few months since he came out of the ancient desolate heaven region. Chu Hen didn't have the luxury of time to study the power in his body. He could focus on his own matters during this period of time. Buzz! Buzz! Under the observation of the demonic pupil, Chu Hen found that the black shadow in front of him was filled with an extremely shocking explosive power. Just a casual strike from the other party was comparable to the lethality unleashed by his own martial technique. No wonder Elder Bei Chuan of the Wuang Valley and Third Elder Li Shao of the Taiqing sect both vomited blood after being punched by this black shadow in the Xian Chastity Sky region, that is? Chu Hen narrowed his eyes, and he stared at the center of the black shadow's chest. The power here was extremely dense, like a small whirlpool. After a brief moment of surprise, Chu Hen once again released an even more powerful chaotic body power. Endless power surged out, and the black shadow's aura rapidly increased. Under the observation of the demonic pupil, the whirlpool of power in front of the opponent's chest spun rapidly. Buzz! Buzz! Along with the restless spatial rhythm, the surrounding airflow was stirred as well. The space in front of the black shadow displayed a strange distorted state. Then, with a "kacha" sound, a tiny crack quietly appeared in front of Chu Hen's eyes. Chapter 961. This is a spatial devouring hole? Looking at the tiny lines that had split open in the distorted space in front of him, Chu Hen's pupils suddenly shrank. His face was immediately filled with a dense shock. The power of the chaotic body could actually tear space? Unbelievable! It was absolutely unimaginable. It must be known that only when one's power reached an extremely high level could they tear space. Even Gong Yangyu, Qiao Yong, and the other ancient realm experts would find it extremely difficult to do so, let alone Chu Hen, who was only at the 7th level of the sky profound realm. But this black shadow formed from the chaotic force had actually done it. Buzz! Buzz! The extremely uneasy spatial rhythm stirred up the surrounding airflow, and an astonishing power gathered in front of the black shadow. forming a vortex less than half a meter wide. At the center of the vortex, the crack was exceptionally sharp. One could vaguely see the mysterious flowing light inside the crack. This was a crack about the width of a finger, and it could not even be called a devouring hole. It could only be called a spatial crack. Soon after, a cold light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes, and an endless stream of true yuan surged out. Hua! A powerful airflow spread out, and the vortex of energy became even more violent. Along with the increasing momentum, the crack in front of the black shadow expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye, like a crack on the surface of ice. It slowly grew to the size of a baby's fist. The scene inside the crack became much clearer. In the dark and mysterious space, streams of illusory spatial turbulence appeared right in front of him. At the same time, Chu Hen could clearly feel an obscure suction force trying to pull him in. It really is a spatial devouring hole. Chu Hen was even more astonished. Without waiting for him to recover from the shock, there was a sudden bang. Sound of a muffled explosion. The whirlpool actually exploded into a ball of air wave. The tiny space-devouring hole also instantly closed up, and the black shadow also disappeared into thin air. It seemed that this was the current limit. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, and a somewhat profound look appeared in his eyes. It had to be said that the power of primal chaos that could tear through space had truly shocked him. Back then, when this unknown bloodline boundary was awakened together with the demonic pupil sacred body, he named it the chaotic body. It was just a hope, it was a kind of yearning and respect for the chaotic divine body. He had never thought that the mysterious second bloodline boundary would give him more and more surprises today. What secrets are hidden in my body? Chu Hen's expression was a little perplexed. He lowered his head and looked at his hands. He was a little at a loss as he muttered to himself, also, who exactly am I? After a long period of contemplation, Chu Hen slowly raised his head. His handsome face exuded an innate, extraordinary aura. I'm done with the chaotic body. You're next, crack. As soon as he finished speaking, a sharp and resonant tremor cut through the air. In the next moment, countless dazzling blue lightning pillars shot out from his body. Chi-chi! The lightning pillars intertwined and let out a low hum. Chu Hen seemed to be enveloped in a dense net of lightning. His black hair danced wildly, and his clothes fluttered. An earth-shattering airwave spread in all directions, and even the sky darkened. Icy blue spots of light constantly flickered where Chu Hen's heart was. Bright lines continuously extended from his heart to other places. From afar, it looked like a ferocious beast sealed in Chu Hen's body was about to break out. Countless flickering lightning bolts flowed all over Chu Hen's body. They were like glowing blood vessels, beautiful and dazzling. Still not willing to submit to me? Chu Hen said indifferently, as if he was talking to himself. Then I'm a little sorry. I have a lot of time to play with you this time. Rumble. In that instant, a shocking, majestic aura surged out from Chu Hen's body. He was as steady as a boulder and as immovable as a mountain. The heart of the lightning killer had also become extremely restless. The aura it erupted with was like a volcano. Thousands of bolts of lightning shot into the sky, and a shocking chilin of lightning immediately appeared above Chu Hen. Roar! The enraged chilin glared at Chu Hen below. Afterwards, it stomped on the air and swooped down, dragging lightning pillars behind it as it shot towards Chu Hen. However, Chu Hen did not even bat an eyelid. He continued to sit where he was as if he did not exist. Boom! An earth-shattering sound directly exploded in all directions. Countless peerlessly powerful lightning pillars were like sharp swords as they slanted and pierced through the mountain range that Chu Hen was at. The birds and beasts in the back of Mount Kunliu immediately fled in fright, and the ground trembled. What's happening? Hurry up and report to sect leader Gong Yang. There's no need for that. Junior brother Chu Hen is there. I saw him go over just now. Don't tell me he's going to destroy Mount Kunliu as well? The startled crowd looked in the direction of the back of the mountain from afar. Each and every one of them shook their heads inwardly in shock. There was really no peace for a single day. The intense turmoil lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. For 3 whole days, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in Mount Kunliu. All the disciples were shaken by the violent noise. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to go crazy. I need to remind junior brother Chu-hen to set up a sound isolation formation. That's right. I support you. Quite a few disciples mustered up their courage and planned to go and advise Chu-hen not to disturb the people. But when they saw the terrifying lightning tribulation that filled the sky, all of them swallowed their saliva and immediately changed their minds. Actually, I think we should all learn from junior brother Chu-hen. No matter what, we should learn and train hard. He's encouraging us to reach his level as soon as possible. Finally, I've dealt with you. In the rubble, Chu-hen let out a long sigh of relief. A gratified smile could be seen on his face. Previously, when he was in the Black Kshetra sky region, he had merely suppressed the Black Kshetra divine lightning heart and did not completely subdue it. As a powerful divine treasure that was nurtured by heaven and earth, the Black Kshetra divine lightning heart possessed intelligence. If one did not subdue and refine it, one would not be able to control its power at all. Currently, Chu-hen was only able to control the Black Kshetra divine lightning's power. In the future, as his cultivation base rose, the power of the Black Kshetra divine lightning heart would continue to strengthen and become the most lethal and powerful weapon. Chi. The countless lightning bolts that gathered in the surroundings entered Chu-hen's body like rivers flowing into the sea. At the same time, bolts of black lightning were released as well. Chapter 962. The back mountain area of Mount Kunliu was immersed in a peculiar atmosphere for several days in a row. Even though the pillars of lightning that filled the sky had long since disappeared, the heart-palpitating energy waves continued to permeate the area. It's already been a few days. What is Chu-hen doing there? The people of Mount Kunliu would pass by the back mountain area every now and then. They would cast a few glances in the direction of the back mountain. From afar, that blurry figure was as resolute as an unmoving boulder. Around noon on the 6th day, Chu-hen, who was at the edge of the cliff, suddenly opened his eyes. His deep eyes flickered with an icy blue electric light. Buzz! With a heavy and powerful aura, Chu-hen raised one of his hands and with a single thought, crack! A hurried whistling sound was heard. Interweaving bolts of lightning gathered on Chu-hen's palm like vines. The violent and condensed lightning was abnormally swift and fierce, like many little snakes jumping about. Moreover, the color of the lightning was no longer pure icy blue, but dark blue. It looked like wisps of strange black smoke rising from the blue lightning. It was wild and domineering, with an indescribable arrogance and power. It was the product of the fusion of the Black Kshetra divine lightning and the dark thunder. Whoosh! Following that, Chu-hen's eyelids twitched as he extended his arm. Whoosh! With a loud and clear wind-splitting sound, a dark blue lightning light pillar directly shot out from Chu-hen's palm. Like a sharp sword that could split the sky, it forcefully pierced through the east and west sides of a mountain range in front of him. Quickly after, Chu-hen raised his hand, and the enormous pillar of lightning in his palm rose as well. The incomparable pillar of lightning was like tofu, and with the power to split open the heavens, it split the mountain range into two. Splitting it apart from the middle, Chu-hen was pleasantly surprised. His eyes were filled with joy. I didn't expect the fusion of two types of lightning to be so powerful. However, he also understood that the main power came from the Black Kshetra divine lightning. Although the dark thunder was also quite destructive, there was still a huge gap between it and the Black Kshetra divine lightning. Now that the two of them had fused into one, there was no difference between left and right. There was no doubt that Chu-hen was the most excited at this moment. The mysterious killer divine lightning heart, is indeed worthy of being a divine object of the world born from the accumulation of an endless amount of lightning essence. Such a powerful force is definitely not weaker than the so-called lightning soul sacred body. This is especially true now that the mysterious killer lightning heart is still in its initial stage of growth. In time, this object will definitely become one of my ultimate killing moves. Chu Hen secretly nodded and sighed. It was no wonder that everyone in the Xian Kshetra sky region had fought wave after wave for the Xian Kshetra divine lightning core like madmen. Such a divine object indeed had a charm that could make countless people go crazy. Xiao. Suddenly, the sound of wind being torn apart resounded, and Lung Lingyan flashed over. I say, boss, are you going to flatten our back mountain? Lung Lingyan couldn't help but feel a little speechless as she looked at the mountain that had just been split in half. At the same time, a trace of surprise flashed through her beautiful eyes. Compared to a few days ago, the other party's aura was obviously much more stable. Chu Hen was stunned at first, then he seemed to remember something. Did I forget to set up the soundproof defense formation? It seems so. Anyway, I've been staying at the foot of the mountain for the past few days, and I just returned this morning. Chu Hen sniffled embarrassedly, then he laughed heartily. Where are the others? They're still in the Eastern Victory State. Lung Lingyan knew that Chu Hen was referring to Su Yurong, Principal Jiang, and the others from the Alliance of Generals. Chu Hen nodded and looked straight into Lung Lingyan's elegant and refined eyes. Sect leader Gong Yang is looking for me, right? Yes, there's also sect leader Qiao Yong of the Thousand World Sect, and palace leader Xing Yi of the Palace of Zhuo. They're all here as well. Lung Lingyan's red lips parted slightly, and there was a hint of meaning in her tone. Until now, there had never been anyone in the Eastern Victory State who could be summoned by those two at the same time. Chu Hen was the first. Just over a year ago, Chu Hen was still the brat who stole the water soul essence and was chased by Lung Lingyan to the point of fleeing. Now, the distance between the two was getting further and further apart. Qiao Yong, Xing Yi. Chu Hen murmured softly. Where are they? Conference hall. All right, I'll go now. Chu Hen strode away. When he was 2 meters away, he turned back and said, Senior Sister Lingyan, do you still have something to say to me? The moment she met Chu Hen's gaze, Lung Lingyan's eyes were a little evasive, but she quickly regained her calmness. Her gaze was firm as she said, I heard from Danjun that Miss Luo is still alive. I'm really happy for you. You'll definitely find her. Chu Hen's handsome brows raised, and he smiled simply and generously. Thank you. Lung Lingyan nodded. Go quickly. After all, they're 2 big shots. It's not good to keep them waiting for too long. Senior sister, aren't you coming with me? Lung Lingyan shook her head and chuckled. You're walking too fast. I'm afraid I can't keep up. You go first. Chu Hen smiled and nodded. His figure immediately moved, and he turned into a stream of light that leaped into the sky. Looking at the black dot that disappeared, Lung Lingyan stood on the spot for a long time. The corners of her mouth slowly curled up in relief. Conference hall. When Chu Hen stepped through the door of the lobby, a dozen or so pairs of gazes swept over him at the same time. Behind every gaze was an aura that was not weak. In the seats of honor was an old man who exuded the aura of an immortal, and a middle-aged man who wore gorgeous clothes and had an extraordinary bearing. Behind each of them stood a familiar figure. The other was a teenage girl with 2 cute buns on her head. The other was a young man who was about the same age as Chu Hen. These two were none other than the myriad world sects Qiao Shaowan and the Zhuhua Palace's Han Ichuan, whom he had met in the ancient desolate heaven domain. Only the 3 of them sat in the hall. Even the flying immortal palace master and the demon-slaying palace master stood respectfully on either side of Gong Yangyu. Sect Master. Chu Hen calmly took the initiative to cast his gaze towards Gong Yangyu. Gong Yangyu nodded, then raised his hand and said, This is Sect Master Qiao Yong, and this is Hall Master Xing Yi. Greet the 2 seniors. Chu Hen understood. He immediately cupped his fists and bowed in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Junior Chu Hen greets the two seniors. It's my honor to know that the two seniors wanted to see me. You don't have to be so polite. Please sit here, Xiao Yong said with a gentle gaze. Chu Hen politely declined. I'll just stand. There's no need for us to talk. To be honest, Chu Hen wasn't used to this kind of scene. After all, even the three hall masters were standing. It was a little too ostentatious for him to sit with these three. Even if Chu Hen had this kind of strength, the difference in seniority was too great. This was also to save some face for the others. Seeing Chu Hen's humble and courteous appearance, Xiao Yong nodded with slight admiration. Since everyone is here, let's get straight to the point. Everyone calmed their minds and focused their attention on the task. First, let's talk about the Thunder Saint Palace. After the battle that day, the entire Thunder Saint Palace collapsed. Hall Master Xing Yi and I ordered Lei Zhe to dismiss all the disciples, and the remaining people were banished from the victorious East Province. We also ordered them to never step into the province again. Are you satisfied with this result? Xiao Yong looked at Gong Yangyu and then Chu Hen. Thank you for your trouble. Gong Yangyu nodded in reply. Humph. Seeing Gong Yangyu's calm appearance, Xing Yi snorted coldly in dissatisfaction. Your Mount Kunliu caused such a huge disaster, and you want to just leave like that? With the destruction of the Thunder Saint Palace, the victorious East Province is in chaos. Are you trying to throw the entire mess to us? Xiao Yong extended his hand slightly and dissuaded the unhappy Xing Yi. He continued, in the past, there were countless forces that had attached themselves to the Thunder Saint Palace, and the area that the Thunder Saint Palace controlled also occupied a large portion of the Eastern Victory State. Now that the Thunder Saint Palace is gone, they are like a group of dragons without a leader. The various large areas that originally belonged to them are in constant disputes and chaos. It is a complete mess. As one of the three great forces, the Thunder Saint Palace dominated an area and controlled an extremely large area. With the collapse of the Thunder Saint Palace, the various forces in the areas under their jurisdiction were instantly unable to control them. In order to snatch resources, battles for benefits broke out one after another like a chain reaction. If these endless battles were allowed to continue, then the turbulent storm in the victorious East Province would definitely be far in the future. With the deterrence of the Thousand World Sect and the Palace of Jihua, they shouldn't be unable to suppress these small fights, right? Gong Yangyu said. It's easy to suppress them for a while, but I'm afraid it's impossible to keep them peaceful forever, Xiao Yong replied. The Thousand World Sect, the Palace of Jihua, and the Thunder Saint Palace were in different areas. The Thunder Saint Palace controlled many areas that were far away from the first two. The Myriad World Sect and the Palace of Jihua couldn't always guard the area where the Thunder Saint Palace used to be. Of course, the most important point was that the victorious East Province had to have a tripartite structure. The existence of a third party could keep the other two in check. With this structure, the victorious East Province had been peaceful for thousands of years. A variable like Chu Hen was definitely unprecedented. So what do the two of you mean? Gong Yangyu asked. Chapter 963. Your Mount Kunliu will replace the Thunder Saint Palace as the third faction, and he will be the third lord of the province. Xiao Yong's tone revealed an irresistible majesty and boldness. Everyone in the hall followed the direction of the person's finger and shifted their gazes onto Chu Hen, the third lord of the province. When they heard these words, everyone was surprised. Even Chu Hen was overwhelmed by the favor. Very quickly, Chu Hen calmed down and replied solemnly, "Thank you for Sect Master Qiao's favor. This junior doesn't deserve it. This suggestion is very difficult for me to accept." Then, Chu Hen pointed at Gong Yangyu. Mount Kunliu's master has always been Sect Master Gong Yang. Hearing this, Gong Yangyu raised his eyebrows and asked doubtfully, "I'm also very surprised. Why am I not the third lord of the province?" Xing Yi sneered and said disdainfully, We don't want to see someone disappear for 20 years after taking office for less than 3 days, disappear for 20 years after taking office for only 3 days. Hearing this, the expressions of the upper echelons of Mount Kunlu behind Gong Yangyu were extremely interesting. Xing Yi's words had directly struck a chord in the hearts of the flying Immortal Hall Master and the rest. The few of them nearly laughed out loud. At this moment, there was finally someone who said those words to Gong Yangyu on their behalf. Qiao Yong looked up and said, "We're all people of Mount Kunlu anyway. I believe it doesn't matter who becomes the third lord of the province." Senior. Chu Hen's gaze was still resolute. He cupped his fists and said, "I won't hide it from the two of you. In 3 months I will leave the victorious East Province." Leave? Everyone was startled. Even the people of Mount Kunlu were surprised. The corners of Gong Yangyu's eyes slanted and a faint light flashed in his eyes. Leave the victorious East Province? Qiao Yong frowned slightly. More accurately, leave the Eastern continent. Everyone was even more confused. The flying Immortal Hall Master and the demon-slaying Hall Master looked at each other. Why did he suddenly have to leave? Was this how he rejected Qiao Yong? But Chu Hen didn't look like he was lying at all. Why did you leave? Qiao Yong continued to ask. Chu Hen slightly paused, then opened his mouth and replied, "It's to find an extremely important person. Also, I hope to walk even further, even higher." It was only a very simple sentence, but everyone could see a boundless yearning that was like the vast sea of stars in Chu Hen's eyes. In Chu Hen's eyes, the victorious East State was too small. Even the entire Eastern continent could not trap him. This was a stubbornness that could not be suppressed. At this moment, Qi Hanyu and the rest saw the shadow of Gong Yangyu in Chu Hen. Similarly, he was unwilling to be bound by power and position. No one doubted that even if they forced Chu Hen to become the third prefecture lord, he would become the second Gong Yangyu 3 months later, choosing to leave without saying goodbye. However, to everyone's surprise, Qiao Yong didn't get angry because of Chu Hen's rejection. Instead, he looked a little sentimental. "You really want to leave the victorious East State?" This junior has already made up his mind. "I hope the 2 seniors can forgive me." "Fine." Qiao Yong sighed softly, then turned to Gong Yangyu and said, "I believe that Sect Master Gong Yangyu is already in his 40s or 50s. You shouldn't be like a young man who hasn't had enough fun, right?" Gong Yangyu smiled without saying a word. He had an expression of understanding. "Since that's the case, we can only do this. You will still be the third prefecture lord in name. Before you return, the management will be temporarily handed over to Sect Master Gong Yangyu." Before Chu Hen could reply, Gong Yangyu smiled and said, "I say, Sect Master Qiao, I haven't agreed yet. Are you going to decide for me just like that?" What else do you want?" Xing Yi shouted coldly. "If it weren't for the fact that we couldn't think of a better solution in such a short amount of time, how could you have gotten such a great bargain?" "This. I'll think about it. Thunder Saint Palace's territory is too big. I feel a little pressured." Gong Yangyu laughed unkindly. Xing Yi couldn't help but curse him for being shameless. There weren't many people who didn't know how abundant Thunder Saint Palace's resources were. If Mount Kunlun took over, it wouldn't take long for their overall strength to soar. This was something that other sects couldn't even think of, but Gong Yangyu seemed to be forcing them. How could Xing Yi not be angry? "Sect Master Gong Yangyu, there's no need to worry. Our 1,000-world sect and Palace of 9 Radiance will assist Mount Kunlun in suppressing the various large forces under Thunder Saint Palace's jurisdiction." Since Qiao Yong had already said this, Gong Yangyu and Chu Hen couldn't find a reason to refuse. The mess left behind by Thunder Saint Palace would still have to be cleaned up by Mount Kunlun. If there are no more questions, then you should hurry up. The battles around Thunder City have been especially fierce these few days. Once Thunder Saint Palace is in trouble, more than 1/10 of the Eastern Victory State is in chaos. You should prepare more people. Qiao Yong warned. Gong Yangyu shook his head. So troublesome. I told you to stay out of this, don't even think about it. Qiao Yong said in his heart. Then, he said, since everything has been explained, then Palace Master Xing Yi and I will await your good news. Have a safe trip. Han Yu, Wen Liang, send them off. Yes, Sect Master. Qiao Yong and Xing Yi looked at each other, feeling a little proud. They finally dragged Mount Kunliu into this. In order to suppress the chaos around Thunder City, the Thousand Worlds Sect and Palace of Nine Radiance had expended a lot of resources and manpower. However, if they wanted to suppress those people permanently, they still needed to intervene directly. You wait a moment. Just as everyone was about to leave, a clear voice called out to Chu Hen. Qiao Shaowan lightly jumped to Chu Hen's side. Are you calling me? Chu Hen pointed at himself uncertainly. Qiao Shaowan's bright eyes were wide open, like a young girl next door. You really want to leave the victorious Eastern Province? Is there a problem? Chu Hen asked. That. How about bringing me along? I've wanted to go to places outside the Eastern continent for a long time. Qiao Shaowan stared at Chu Hen expectantly. At the same time, everyone in the hall stared at the little girl in astonishment. Chu Hen thought she was joking and was about to reject her. However, Thousand World Sect Master Qiao Yong said, That's not a bad idea. It can't be? Chu Hen thought he heard wrong. Qiao Yong actually supported Qiao Shaowan to leave the Eastern continent with him? Following that, Han Ichuan, who was on the other side, walked over and said to Xing Yi, Master, I also want to follow Junior Chu Hen to the world outside of the Eastern continent to train and cultivate. Xing Yi's eyes narrowed slightly. After a short pause, he nodded in agreement. It's rare to have such an opportunity. Then you two should go together. Thank you, Master. Han Ichuan's eyes flashed with excitement. He extended his hand towards Chu Hen. Please take care of me, junior brother Chu Hen. Me too. Qiao Shaowan blinked her big eyes and smiled sweetly. Chu Hen was both angry and amused. Had he decided to bring these two along? He had only met them twice. They hadn't even spoken to each other. You're not afraid that we'll be a burden to you, are you? Qiao Shaowan asked directly. Chu Hen shook his head. No, it's just that I know nothing about the situation outside the Eastern continent. Whether the road ahead is dangerous or safe, it's all unknown. Don't worry, we won't be a burden to you. Moreover, don't we still have 3 months? I'll try my best to improve myself. Although I won't be able to reach your level, it shouldn't be a problem for me to break through 20 to 30% of the profound heaven realm. Break through to the profound heaven realm in 3 months? Chu Hen's face revealed a shocked expression. Currently, Qiao Shaowan was only at the peak of the 9th level of the profound world realm. Even if she had the saint physique, it was impossible for her to break through 2 or 3 levels in such a short time, unless she had the same heaven-bending token as him. However, it was obvious that Qiao Shaowan did not have anything that could help her obtain the heretic god's energy. It's true. When we go back, I'll ask the old man to open the heaven profound realm. 3 months is enough for me to break through the bottleneck. Qiao Shaowan was afraid that Chu Hen would not believe her, so she immediately told him everything. Qiao Yong coughed in dissatisfaction, signaling her to stop talking. Girl, it's almost time for us to leave. Qiao Shaowan replied with an "oh" before she said to Chu Hen, I'll come back when the time comes. Han Ichuan nodded in response. Gong Yangyu, Chu Hen, and the others silently sent them off. After a while, after Qiao Yong and Xing Yi left, Chu Hen arrived at a beautiful bridge with Gong Yangyu accompanying him. The bridge landed in the middle of 2 cliffs. There were luxurious buildings on both sides. It was very imposing. The old man and the young man seemed very calm. There was not much fluctuation in their emotions. After a long time, Chu Hen finally spoke first. I should have looked for you earlier, sect leader. Gong Yangyu smiled slightly. It's true that it takes a lot of time to fuse with the divine lightning heart. To be honest, the two of them had only met once in the truest sense of the term. Back in the 100 Nations province, that old beggar who pretended to be a fool had thrown the blue Ran sword and sect leader token to Chu Hen in a hurry. After that, they had not met face to face again. However, the two of them were like acquaintances who had known each other for a long time. There was not the slightest bit of restraint or unease. I did not come to see you previously because my heart was not calm enough. Chu Hen stopped in the middle of the bridge. Gong Yangyu stood beside him. His gentle gaze was like the water of an ancient well. There was a sense of majesty in his calmness. So many things have happened. I have responsibilities that I cannot shirk. What should happen cannot be avoided. I am just a little curious. Just now, when I said that I wanted to leave the victorious East Province, you did not seem to find it strange at all. That's right. After all, a small victorious East Province cannot trap you. Is there any other reason? Chu Hen asked. Gong Yangyu's gaze darkened. Someone once told me that you will leave this place very soon. Oh? Who was it? Chu Hen was a little surprised. Gong Yangyu returned the other's confused gaze. His gaze was as heavy as a wide river. His throat moved slightly as he spat out a few words. Chapter 964. The person who asked me to give you the position of sect master, Gong Yangyu enunciated each word clearly. His deep eyes were like a vast river that was difficult to look into. Chu Hen's heart skipped a beat. His face was full of surprise and confusion. He asked in confusion, "Didn't you hide from Fuqin and Nongqi? That's why," speaking till here, Chu Hen's voice suddenly stopped. He suddenly understood something. Hide? How was that possible? Gong Yangyu was at the peak of the ancient eternal realm. No matter how outstanding Nongqi's perception was, she definitely couldn't find any trace of Gong Yangyu in that case. Gong Yangyu deliberately let Nongqi and the others find him. Similarly, what kind of person was Gong Yangyu? No matter how mischievous he was, no matter how stubborn he was, it was impossible for him to give the position of sect master and the blue Ran sword to a stranger for no reason. Was it a coincidence? Absolutely not. Chu Hen's eyes trembled slightly. He asked in a low voice, "Who is it?" Gong Yangyu's eyes flashed with a faint trace of seriousness. He immediately answered, "That man who has the same eyes as you, Buzz." In an instant, Chu Hen's pupils rapidly shrunk. A monstrous wave instantly rose in his heart. It was unexpected, but it seemed reasonable. Li Wushang. These three words filled Chu Hen's mind. That mysterious man who also had the demon pupil sacred body. Even though the other party had said that they weren't directly related, Chu Hen could always feel an indescribable and obscure bond from the other party. Where is he? Chu Hen stared at Gong Yangyu's calm face. Gong Yangyu shook his head. "I'm not sure." "You don't know? Then what's your relationship? Why would you listen to him?" "Because I lost a bet." "Bet? Lost?" Chu Hen was even more speechless. "Because you lost to Li Wushang, you gave the position of sect master to me?" "That's right," Gong Yangyu replied. Chu Hen could not help but find it a little funny. Just what kind of bet was that it could even cause the entire Mount Kunliu to be lost? If the Flying Immortal Palace Lord and the others were to find out about this, they would definitely flip the heavens. But Chu Hen didn't want to care about that. He just wanted to find Li Wushang and figure everything out. "What else did he say?" "He told me to tell you not to try to find him. When the time comes, you will naturally meet him." When the time came, they would naturally meet again. This was the second time Chu Hen had heard those words. After Long Zhan's death, Long Qingyang had led Chu Hen and the others to escape to the Hidden Wind region. That was the last time Chu Hen had seen Li Wushang. When is the next time? It was still a long way off. Moreover, when was the day we should meet that the other party mentioned? Could it be that he had to wait until the day he attained the 9-star demon pupils? How long would it be? After a long time, Chu Hen finally regained his inner peace. He said, "Thank you for telling me this. Gong Yangyu smiled warmly and patted Chu Hen's shoulder like an elder. Even if I didn't say it, you would have sensed it. Rather than letting you leave the victorious East State in confusion, I might as well tell you the truth. Chu Hen had a grateful expression. Thank you. I still have something I don't understand. Speak. Why did the Thousand World Sect and Jiuhua Palace want us to be the third ruler of the province? What they said about 3 legs of a tripod, to keep the other 2 in check. It should all be a lie. Ha 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 ha. Gong Yangyu laughed and pointed at Chu Hen. He shook his head and said, I told you it would be very difficult to trick you. Chu Hen was stunned. Gong Yangyu explained, 3 legs of a tripod exist to keep each other in check, but it only occupies a small part of the picture. The most important thing is to constantly suppress the internal and external troubles in the victorious East State. Internal troubles are nothing to be afraid of. Just the Thousand World Sect and Jiuhua Palace are enough to resolve all the disturbances in the province. Therefore, external troubles are the most important problem. There are still external troubles in the victorious East State. Of course, the victorious East State is just one of the regions in the victorious East State. The forces and sects in the other regions would occasionally fight with us over the distribution of resources. Previously, they didn't dare to invade us because of the strength of the 3 great forces. Now that the Thunder Saint Palace has fallen, the overall strength of the victorious East State has been greatly reduced. I believe that many of the external forces are ready to make a move. Therefore, Qiao Yong and Xing Yi are urgently supporting the third ruler of the province. So that's how it is. Chu Hen expressed his understanding. It seemed that conflicts would always exist in the world. Gong Yangyu smiled and said, however, you don't have to worry about these things. I will resolve them. Thank you, sect leader. Chu Hen was sincerely grateful to Gong Yangyu. After all, he was the one who caused so much trouble. In the end, the person who cleaned up the mess was Gong Yangyu. Of course, it was also because of Chu Hen that Mount Kunliu leaped from a second or third-rate force to the third ruler of the province, second only to the Thousand World Sect and Jiuhua Palace. By the way, sect leader, in the conference hall earlier, is the Heaven Gale Profound Realm, that Qiao Shaowan mentioned the same as our Mount Kunliu's Celestial Profound Realm? Chu Hen suddenly asked. Gong Yangyu nodded and then shook his head. The nature is indeed the same, but the 2 are far from being on the same level. The Thousand World Sect's Heaven Gale Profound Realm and Jiuhua Palace's 9 Earth Profound Realm are both places of inheritance that have been accumulated for thousands of years. Other than the many absolute arts, there are also the inheritances left behind by their ancestors. Chu Hen sighed inwardly. No wonder that Qiao Shaowan confidently said that she would definitely be able to reach the Sky Profound Realm in 3 months. Looks like she wasn't joking. Now that you mention it, I suddenly want to ask those 2 old foxes for a few spots. Those friends of yours have extremely good natural talent. If they're able to stay there for 2 or 3 months, their cultivations will surely advance by leaps and bounds. As soon as Gong Yangyu said this, Chu Hen's eyes instantly lit up. It's really possible? I naturally have a way to make those 2 old foxes agree. However, don't go to those 2 profound realms. It's not a good thing to advance your cultivation too quickly. Junior understands. Chu Hen knew what Gong Yangyu was referring to. After all, in the past few months, his cultivation had soared from the Earth Profound Realm to the peak of the 7th level of the Sky Profound Realm. Moreover, it was all accumulated from the slaughter energy instilled by the evil god. Currently, it was best to stabilize his cultivation for a period of time and wait for his foundation to gradually stabilize before breaking through. Only then would it not affect the progress of his cultivation in the future. The next day, Chu Hen gathered Su Yorong, Principal Jiang, the members of the General Alliance, and the Thousand Crane Sect's sect leader, Qi Zhang, and the others together. Sister-in-law, sect leader Qi Zhang, I think you'll have to make a trip back to the 100 Nations state. Su Yorong smiled and said. Su Yorong smiled and said, I was going to tell you about this. So many of us have already disturbed Mount Kunliu for more than 10 days. It's time for us to return. Chu Hen shook his head and explained. Sister-in-law, you've misunderstood me. I'll let a few formation masters from Mount Kunliu accompany you back. After that, we'll open up the teleportation formation between the General Alliance and Mount Kunliu. What? The teleportation formation between the General Alliance and Mount Kunliu? Everyone looked at each other, not quite understanding what he was saying.